This is Coach Lee, and you're listening to The Door Report.
I can't say too much as yet, but I'm going to be spending a lot more time in here with you lot because I love it in here. I fucking love it! So, I don't want to know about 3% week on week. I want to know that we're killing the opposition. I want to be cutting their throats. Our rivals should be checking in up back of their chauffeured cars because they can't believe what we did. So fucking spicy. So true. Something everyone knows, but nobody says because they're too fucking lily-livered. Huh? They cannot believe what we said and the fact that we fucking said it. They're fucking jam smears on the highway. Now, anyone who believes that I'm getting out, please shove the bunting up your ass. This is not the end. I'm going to build something better. Something faster, lighter, meaner, wilder. And I'm going to do it from in here with you lot. You're fucking pirates! All right!
Welcome back into The Door Report and welcome into episode 317 on a lovely Tuesday evening, May 27th, 2025. I am Will Byrum, joined as always by my co-host, Trevor Hulan, aka Hacksquat Jim Duggan, with some brand new ink.
Oh yeah, I didn't even
brand new ink.
It's still healing. I've got the protective like second skin over it, so it looks all blown out because there's blood and plasma in there. But I got to take it off in a couple days.
Dude, it's another perfect example of what we talk about all the time. The dichotomy of TDR, the duality of man.
Yeah.
Well, me and Trevor view the world through the exact same lens almost. And we will die for the Vanderbilt Commodores. And we will die for Phoebe, the producer. Guess who has 0 tattoos on his body? And almost pride is the wrong word. I've just always said since I was like 15, like, you're going to be unique if you don't have tattoos. That was I was like, I'm not opposed to tattoos. Whatever. But I was just like, I'm just going to be unique. Also, I don't have the best skin for it, whatever. I have 0 tattoos. Trevor, a man that's tatted up.
This is my 11th.
Yeah. What would you call me politically? I have no idea. But I'm not Trevor.
Yeah, he ain't a socialist.
So
he ain't reading Karl Marx and Max Weber.
We got the duality of man on TDR, and we use this phrase often. Maybe overused. We have the beefiest episode of TDR.
Oh, God.
We have had possibly ever. We are joined in segment 1 by Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered to talk SEC tournament baseball, the incredible turnaround of the VandyBoys during the 2024-2025 season. And we also break down Vanderbilt's Nashville region, get his thoughts and predictions. And then we look at the NCAA tournament as a whole and discuss seeding, discuss region-based seeding, Vanderbilt's matchup with Louisville, all that stuff. In segment 2, me and Trevor are joined by TDR's attorneys, allegedly. And Blake Fromang and George Barclay making his first appearance on the Door Report. Longtime caller in on Talking with TDR and contributor and writer for the Door Report, George Barclay. We have 2 practicing attorneys joining us to actually intelligently break down through real, professional, intelligent opinion the Zakai Ziegler lawsuit and what they predict will happen and all of the precedent surrounding that. We have a full unbiased lawyer's perspective on what they believe is going to happen.
I'll say this, too. I don't mean to cut you off. I really do want to highlight, of course, listen to the whole pod. Please, dear God, listen to the whole pod. Really tap in for like what Blake and George had to say, because highlighting what Will said, it was very intelligent, thoughtful dudes who have studied not just the Pavia ruling, but also the Alberto ruling, as well as the preliminary documents for Zakai Ziegler. Dudes who have reviewed it and looked into historical precedent, who bring very, very incredible knowledge that we have not heard in podcasting radio
and
on this matter.
And how you know it was real lawyer intelligent evaluation and analysis is they would not give a definitive answer either direction.
Yeah.
They were giving their opinion based on what they have seen. And that's how you know it was actual intelligent evaluation. Anyone that has been paying attention to college sports has watched and listened to every Joe Schmo blow around town comment and talk about this Zakai Ziegler situation. Guess what? Me and Trevor are two more Joe Schmo blows. I'm not separating myself from that.
No, yeah, we're as Joe Schmo blow as it gets.
That is why we brought in people with law degrees to intelligently discuss this. So tune in to segment 2 after the TDR cocktail break. And thank you to George Barclay and Blake Fromang for providing that. And also, just once again, thank you to Chris Phillips for taking time.
The GOAT.
Yeah, just taking time in an incredibly busy week for him and breaking down the NCAA tournament with us. You have an incredibly locked and loaded episode 317 coming up. I don't even know if I have anything else I need to say in the intro.
This might be the shortest intro in TDR history.
Yeah, we just have the stuff to read here. On the Zakai Ziegler front, I just have to throw in, because I didn't comment much because they just know what they're talking about. There has been just so much dumb commentary surrounding the Zakai Ziegler stuff and comparing it to Pavia with no intelligence. I don't know if it's for clicks. I don't know what it is. It's either people that are really, really just plugged into sports and dumb and narrow-minded, and that's all they are looking at, and that's all they have to offer, and that's fine. But they're commenting on legal matters now, and they sound dumb. I don't know if it's that or if it's clicks, but something weird is happening around this Zakai Ziegler stuff where now it's just lost. It's like possibly the biggest court case and the biggest filing in modern NCAA, at least since NIL stuff.
I don't even think modern. I think this
Ever.
could potentially is the biggest law junction in NCAA
I keep
history.
seeing people talking about, the NCAA is looking to reinvent how the 5-year clock is utilized and changing their own internal private organization policy to where players just have a 5-year window to play. That's fine. That's not what we're talking about here. That's not what Zakai Ziegler is necessarily suing for. This opens up a whole other world of possibilities surrounding college athletics and the eligibility of athletes within that. Because I talked about it with Blake and George, and I don't want to reiterate and re-talk over my points, but we've lost sight of why college athletics exist. We knew it was going to happen when NIL came into play. We knew when that came to fruition that inevitably fans and media were going to lose sight of why we have college athletics. The real purpose of the NCAA, and you can call bullshit, you can call pie in the sky, whatever. The real purpose of it is giving underprivileged athletes opportunities to receive education, higher education, to which they would not otherwise have had access to. That's the real purpose. Because I know we only talk about on this podcast almost exclusively football, basketball, and baseball. That's understandable. Those are the revenue-generating sports. But those are not all the sports that are encompassed within college athletics.
Absolutely.
A majority, even if you just go down a level of athletics, a vast, vast majority of college athletics are not making remotely life-changing money during college. A majority of them are making no money. Nothing has changed for them in the NIL era. And we've forgotten about that completely. And there were quotes from Greg Sankey today/yesterday that I won't get into. From a business perspective, I understand the quotes. But to take the self-righteous view that you are the representative of college athletics fans and fans of the SEC and say you don't have a responsibility to promote the good of the game, fuck you. You do. You are the commissioner of the largest and most influential conference in college athletics that has been competing since the 1800s. Respect the people that came before you and built the foundation for which you are thriving. Everything I have seen, I despise lately in college athletics. And you can even go to Josh Pate on Twitter, claiming that fans, trying to make fans feel dumb and stupid by saying, do you notice any difference in college game days? Do you notice any difference in what you're seeing on Saturdays? And almost diminishing any response that is, yes, I do. Fans do. We feel a difference in college athletics. You are not tied to these players in the same ways. These are transactional, semi-pro, quasi-professional players with one-year contracts. College athletics is different, and it feels different. It is still fun. It is still a great time. I will always be tailgating, but it is different, and you are dumb if you don't think it is different. That's a long rant on the Zakai Ziegler. Trevor, I apologize. I said I wasn't going to get into
Dude,
this
nah,
stuff.
dude. Let it hang. This is the beauty of podcasting.
But there's a lot of just dumb conversation that has set me off since we last recorded on Sunday. What else did we want to get here on the intro? We talked about Zakai Ziegler.
I feel like there's another thing you wanted to talk about.
What was it? There was a discussion that local national sports
radio.
We didn't talk about this at all. This is the last thing I will talk about. I'm
actually now that you brought up radio, I had a little. He didn't tweet back at me, but Will Bowling once again running his mouth towards Vanderbilt fans.
I don't want this intro to take over for what is an absolutely incredible segment 1 and segment 2.
Maybe one of our best episodes ever.
Yeah, with incredible guests providing incredible content. But I made a tweet that said I turned on local Nashville radio. I didn't say any station. I just said local Nashville radio for 20 minutes this morning. It was actually more like 30 minutes. And I said the topics I discussed were fighting a gorilla. And what was the other topic, actually? There was the Brock Purdy contract situation, fighting a gorilla, and then the Olympic selection of the flag football team, and 5 commercial breaks. Those were the topics I heard discussed between the 2 most popular local radio stations in Nashville. I received a bit of blowback. The point of that was not related to any specific person or radio station, and I got a few different points of blowback. The number one I got was, these are reruns, you idiot. These are reruns on Memorial Day. I would like to point out, no, they weren't. Because at the top of the hour on 102.5, and I shouted them out in a later tweet, their second headline, besides an MLB player breaking the StatCast era for fastest baseball hit in the StatCast era, their number 2 headline of the day was shout out to the VandyBoys and Tim Corbin. That was their number 2. The point I was generally making is the lack of care and treatment from traditional sports media as if this is a job. It is a job. You have to treat it like a job. But as sports media, you are the break from people's reality. This is a holiday for a majority of people. It's Memorial Day. Remember, celebrate, all of that. The NCAA College Baseball Selection Committee, they did not take the day off. Local sports radio should not have taken the day off. I personally, you could not have pried me away from the microphone the day after in the Nashville market that your local SEC team was the number 1 overall seed and the NCAA baseball tournament bracket was announced the previous day. You could not have pried me away from that microphone. That's my problem with local Nashville sports media. There is a passion required for this. It is not even a question of if I'm going to take off for this. No, this is the last true large sports event happening until college football season, at least if you talk locally in Nashville, because we don't have an NBA team here. So you have the NBA playoffs and you have the NCAA college baseball tournament. And then you have a couple months of a dead air where you can take off, you can take time with your family, you can talk about fighting gorillas, you can talk about the selection process for the Olympic flag football team. That's my issue. This is people's break from reality. Stop treating it like a job and start being passionate about it. There is a reason people have started engaging with podcasts in record-setting numbers in 2024 and now in 2025? It is because people can sense passion. You can't fake passion and enthusiasm and desire and want to. And undeniably, people that are doing podcasts and talking about things they care about are investing more time and resources into it than people who are clocking in and out like it is another corporate job. That's the end of my rant. That was not directed at literally anyone. That was not directed at a station. That was not directed at an individual person. That is a criticism I have of local sports media in general. That's it. That's the intro I have. Trevor, anything else you want to add on here?
I don't think so. Screw Will Bowling for the little brother comment to Vanderbilt fans. That pissed me off.
Yeah, I'm not calling out anyone individually. This was not about anyone.
I'll call him out. Screw you, Will Bowling. We're number one.
Here we
Suck
go.
it.
Well, we have a huge segment 1 with Chris Phillips and a massive segment 2 with Blake Fromang and George Barclay. But before we get into all that, we are now a part of the Rivals Publisher Network / On3 Publisher Network. Visit vanderbilt.rivals.com or thedorreport.com today and subscribe to a premium monthly or annual membership and support TDR. You can use code DOORREPORT, all capital letters, no spaces, for a 30-day, no-risk free trial. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Door Report. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. And while you're at it, give our podcast 5 stars and a review on iTunes. It's now time for a Locked and Loaded segment 1. Welcome back into segment 1 of episode 317 of The Door Report. I am still Will Byrum. This is still Trevor Hulan, aka Hacksquat Jim Duggan. And we are joined by Chris Phillips, founder of SEC Unfiltered, to talk some Vanderbilt baseball, some SEC baseball, and the NCAA college baseball tournament bracket, kind of as a whole, just to get Chris's thoughts. So, Chris, you've been on quite the whirlwind tour. You were down in Hoover, I believe, for the SEC tournament. Thank you for taking the time. I think you just literally got done with an interview about 5 minutes before we started recording this. So, and add on to that, you also just moved to Nashville. So, Chris, you are in a tornado of activity right now. How are you feeling? How are you holding up?
Dude, I'm feeling great, man. Who'd have thunk when we were all hanging out in Lot 2 last fall? We talked about it, but it actually came to fruition. So, yeah, it's been a whirlwind. The week before Hoover, got moved into Nashville. And like I was telling you guys off air, my first weekend here went about as you would expect. Felt like I did a world tour of the city of Nashville in regards to going out, and I didn't get a whole lot of sleep, but now Hoover was great, man, and now obviously the best time of the year. So every next show is the biggest one, and yeah, we're busy as hell with different interviews and conversations, breaking down regionals, and we'll do the same for supers, and obviously we'll spend 2 weeks in Omaha getting after it. But it feels good to be talking to you boys from the greatest city on planet Earth, man. Nashville,
greatest city in the world.
There we go.
And of course, I hadn't been in the city about 24 hours or so, and we're out and about in the city, and who do I run into but Mr. Man himself, Hacksquat Jim Duggan, just in the streets in Nashville.
Running the streets of Germantown.
Who was it? That was after Holcomb hit the walk-off, right?
It was, yes.
That was after Holcomb hit the walk-off against Kentucky.
Like, what about Holcomb, dude?
Yeah, so I mean, it just yeah, I'm excited to be here, man. It's been awesome thus far, and yeah, I couldn't be happier. So great to be back on with you guys. Repping the VandyBoys. We got to. Shout out to the VandyBoys. SEC tournament champions, #1 overall seed. It's who's got it better? Who's got it better than the Doors right now?
Nobody. And Chris, I think the last time you joined was episode 301.
It wasn't that
right?
long ago. Was it that long ago?
Episode
It
301.
wasn't that long ago, but the baseball season flies by, but feels long at the same time. So.
At the same time, it was not that long ago, but it was an eternity ago. The discussion points we were having, the talks we were having about Corbin, about this roster, about the power, that has flipped on its head, and it's been pretty recently. It was not that long ago that this Vanderbilt baseball team had not won back-to-back series in SEC play. That was a big discussion and talking point we had not that long ago, like a month ago. And baseball is a sport of getting hot at the right time. You saw that. You've seen that year after year. Tennessee was just hot as hell basically the entire season all last year, ran through the tournament. Vanderbilt seems to be cycling on at the right time. We have all had different degrees of takes about Tim Corbin throughout this season, some good, some bad. And for people that are unaware, Chris issued his formal apology to Tim Corbin. Phoebe, do not.
Phoebe is about to knock off the
Phoebe, our
helmet.
producer's going
She
crazy.
loves rubbing up on this helmet, dude.
Gonna lose my train of thought, Phoebe. But
Shout out to Phoebe.
yeah, have to
Just wants
tell
to be part of the
Vanderbilt
show.
fans that
Yeah.
Chris did issue his official apology to Tim Corbin. What have you seen? There's been a clear change of approach. It's at a certain point you just have to, tip your cap to Tim Corbin. You issued the apology, but I mean, what have you seen from this roster? What have you seen from this team? Because man, this is a complete flip of the coin from last time you joined.
Well, can we first address the fact that Trev essentially told me I shouldn't have done that? I mean, and I get where you're coming from. I'm not a big apologize.
Oh, we'll get into it. We'll get into it.
I'm not a big apologize for takes guy either, because I believe you make takes with the information you have readily available then, and that's why they can change. So when I made the take initially, I mean, dude, Vandy fans really resonated with it when I initially said it. And it was after the Arkansas weekend. They got swept. And you watched Vandy, and you could see the bones of it. You could see this is a good club, but they were just missing the offense. And I mean, I don't think it's a surprise, and not to oversimplify it, but guys, you look at the numbers over the last, 5 SEC weekends or so, I think it was, the back half of SEC play. And obviously the SEC tournament, they've always pitched well. They've always played great defense. They're just starting to swing it. I mean, they just swung it better. I mean, that's just it. So the pitching, I think also Connor Fennell really emerged into a dog. I thought it was perfectly encapsulated when he's standing there just like a psycho, just on the mound, waiting on the guy, waiting on Andrew Fisher to get back in the box, and obviously gets him out on the next pitch. So they've had some dogs step up, on the bump. They were already good there, but they're just swinging it better, man. I mean, we knew they had the other two pieces. It was just, and I think Brody Johnston really coming along, kind of stepping up as their big bopper. I think RJ Austin's been able to slide back into the leadoff or the 2 spot, be more a natural role for him. I know he was kind of floating around the 3 or 4 at times, and you're asking to be this power hitter that I just don't think he is. He's a speed guy. We know what he does defensively, but I mean, they pitch at an elite level. Vandy plays defense as well as anybody. Like I said, with RJ Austin out there, it's not many fly balls are dropping, and they're just starting to swing it better. I mean, I'll tell you, after that Arkansas weekend, if you'd have told me Vandy be a host, I wouldn't have thought that was that crazy, but I just said, they had a pretty strong finish. If you'd have told me that that had been a national seed in any capacity, I would have probably said that's too far-fetched. Told me to have been number 1 seed, I'd have called you crazy. So, the turnaround by Corbs and the club was incredible. My apology was more, I felt like I was pretty harsh on Corbin, and it was more so like a tip of the cap. Like, hey, I made a take that turned out to be really, really sour. And I mean, heck, I even had 2 or 3 former Vandy players commenting on Instagram saying that, look at the track record. And I understand the history, and, we were going off what we had seen. And I mean, credit to them, man. I think there was a lot of scrutiny and a lot of criticism, and they just flat out responded. I don't know if there was necessarily a change in the philosophy or anything, or guys just started playing better, but that's what sparked. I just, after they won the SEC tournament, I was like, I got to go back and give Corbs the props, tip the cap. He still knows what he's doing. He's still a legend. I mean, number 1 overall national seed kind of speaks for itself. So, again, not to oversimplify, but, guys, I mean, you look at the offensive numbers. They just started swinging the bats better and picked up some huge series win down the stretch. I think, obviously, you could look at one that sparked them, that big comeback against Alabama. That was huge, being able to hit around the bullpen and get a comeback win. I mean, beating Tennessee goes without saying. We have to mention that one. Doing it at their place, a place that Vandy hadn't won, I think it was since 2021. I know that was a fun weekend for you guys and a pretty sweet weekend for all the doors out there. So, yeah, I mean, it's been really fun to watch. Now you're the number 1 overall national seed, and we'll see if they can stay hot and what they can do with it. But, guys, baseball's a game of runs. It's all about when you get hot, and they've gotten hot at the perfect time.
Yeah, that's the tough part with the Corbin stuff is there was a balanced nuance to some of the take, at least on my side. I'm not going to speak for anyone else, but what I saw was not just a story of this season. It was a combination of what we saw last season and then bleeding into this year without significant changes in the philosophy.
I mean, guys, they still finished 12th in the conference in hitting. So it's not like they tore the cover off the ball. They finished third in pitching, with ERA 3.76, and in second in fielding. But it was just down the stretch the way they swung it. I mean, that is what defined the run for them. So, anyways, I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah, I mean that was for me the same thing. It was just going back to last year and this game. Obviously, college sports is changing so much, and maybe Vandy not having some of the advantages they previously had. But again, I just think Tim Corbin proved to us all he still knows a thing or two about a thing or two.
Yeah, he proved to us all that maybe Tim Corbin knows a tiny bit more than a group of podcasters. So I'm just going to put that out there just for a second. And I'm
still waiting on the hack squat Jim Duggan.
Yeah, well, that's what I wanted to get to. So I wanted to add in the nuance there.
See, listen, it's one thing when SEC Unfiltered says that Tim Corbin, his style, maybe it's not going to work. It hits a little more personally when one of your own.
And this is the nuance I wanted to discuss. And I want Trevor to be able to defend himself because, I pulled back on some of Trevor's takes.
Trev's gone back and forth a lot on the timeline with Vandy fans.
I have. And so
I love the passion. I just love the passion of the Vandy fans, honestly. It's great.
And so, you know what? I've said it before. I'll say it again. I love being proven wrong. I think Tim Corbin has done a sensational job of turning this season around. There's been a lot of conversations and questions being asked. Is this Tim Corbin's best coaching job with Vanderbilt? Probably not of all time. Those first couple of years with Vanderbilt, those were some pretty impressive coaching turnarounds. But as of late, this has been a hell of a coaching turnaround by Tim Corbin. Shout out to Scott Brown as well. I do want to add some. I do want to clarify. I have been going on Twitter and I have been giving you guys your flowers. Yes, please. I can dish it out. I can also take it. I'm not one of those guys that's like, no, don't give it back to me. I think that's lame. Please. Keep doing it. I think it's fun. I think it's awesome. I think that's the beauty of sports. Tim Corbin thus far is on the track to prove me wrong. I would say as of right now, if the season ended, I have been proven wrong. However, the season is not over. And as I have stated on podcasts and as I have sent out on Twitter through tweets, I stand by this. As a Vanderbilt fan, me personally, I do not give two shits about the SEC regular season, and I do not give two shits about the SEC tournament. I care about super regionals, I care about Omaha, and I care about national championships. And if you don't get those, in my opinion, as a diehard Vanderbilt fan, that season is a failure. Now, like I said, I still love the way the season is progressing. I think Vanderbilt is probably the hottest team in America right now, a number one overall seed. It's a tougher region, in my opinion, but still pretty favorable to get to a super and even get to Omaha. I think that the path is certainly there for Vanderbilt. But I want to remind everybody, the goal is not SEC tournament championships. It is supers. It is Omaha. It is national titles. I have said that has been my stance the entire time. I said what I said. No further comment at this time. Onward we go to Omaha.
Yeah,
it's a good point you make. You got the number one overall national seed. Now what do you do with it? You'd rather be Ole Miss from a few years ago, the last team in the field, but win the national title than be the number one overall national seed and get eliminated in your own regional. I mean, I agree with you. It's baseball is such a game where you're judged off your postseason success, and especially at a place like Vandy where you've won titles, and that's, I mean, the expectations the VandyBoys get to Omaha. So I don't disagree with you. I mean, listen, for whatever reason, if the hitting goes back cold or just things turn sour, that's what we will remember, and it'll feel more like a wasted opportunity as the one seed than anything. But so I mean, you're right. I mean, you are right from that standpoint. Maybe it was a little premature of my flowers, but
I also want to give another take because, and hey, all you Tim Corbin supporters, believe me, I love Timmy C. I think that whenever he retires,
I don't think you're anti Tim Corbin. I don't.
That's the thing. It's been turned that I'm anti Tim Corbin. Now I will say I did because I'm a firm believer and I don't delete tweets. I did tweet that it was time for Tim Corbin to step down. I take that back.
You also said it at the end of one of our podcasts.
And I said it on point. At this
And I said,
time,
and then we ended it.
on May 27th, 2025 at 6:26 p.m., I take that back. As of right now, you guys
could do a lot. You could do a lot worse than Tim Corbin. I will say. I know a lot of people have been gloating, and like I said, please continue to gloat. I think that's the beauty of sports. Dance on my grave. I will say, all year long, from the start of the first game up until now, my qualm with Vanderbilt baseball was that they were not getting it done at the plate. Now, obviously, everybody and their mom can say, oh, of course they weren't getting it done at the plate. I said what Vanderbilt baseball needs to do in order to be successful in the modern era of college baseball is to stop with the Vanderbunt small ball. Now, I get it. I know that's Tim Corbin's MO, and it works situationally, and you saw it work situationally in the SEC tournament. Playing small ball works in college baseball whenever you can capitalize on guys that aren't elite Gold Glove defensive talent at every single position like Major League Baseball. However, that as your primary MO will not and was not winning you ball games. And I said Vanderbilt needs to change their plate approach. They need to prioritize extra base hits and home runs, even if that comes at the cost of striking out more. And what has Vanderbilt done now that they have gone on this miraculous run? Extra base hits and home runs at the cost of striking out. So, yeah,
you know what?
It's hard to
thing and be like, maybe I do know what I'm talking.
It's hard to single teams to death in this league. You have to be, you got to have some pop. Like
now, they did it Sunday. Granted, they did it Sunday.
What I was going to say is Vandy's this time of year, there's a premium on pitching, no question. And I mean, to win the SEC tournament, it's when you were a top 4 seed. I mean, I had Vandy in the championship. I didn't have them winning, but I had them getting to that point because they were a top 4 seed in the tournament. They got the double bye, and it's set up beautifully for their pitching staff. And they gave up 3 runs all weekend. So I mean. It just, it worked out well for him. But, I mean, you mentioned, man, like guys like Riley Nelson, Braden Holcomb, Vastine. I mean, we just talked about Holcomb and Vastine before we jumped on. A couple guys that hit walk-offs in the series against Kentucky. You do got to have some power. You got to have some power in this league. And, I mean, number that jumps out for me, I mean, they hit 40 home runs in SEC play. I mean, that's – and a lot of those came over the last, I would say, 5 weekends of conference.
Yes.
So it, like you said, I mean, it's – as that picked up, the wins picked up.
That's where the nuance of the take is like what we were really saying at the core. And it was this team has to change what they are doing. And I do not want this to sound like we're backtracking in a way, because that's certainly not what we are trying to do at all. But this team did change their approach at the plate. And the other side of that is, what our complaint was, is Tim Corbin too stuck in his ways? That was kind of what we were saying is, has the game passed Tim Corbin by? Is he willing to change and adapt? And what we have seen over the last month is, yes, Tim Corbin is willing to change and willing to adapt. So
proved me wrong.
It's not even the backtracking of the take overall. It's like, damn, Tim Corbin adjusted what he has been doing successfully. And what I always added on is what you hit on, Chris, is there is much worse you can do than Tim Corbin in 19 straight NCAA tournament appearances. That's what I kept hitting on, is like, man, you can say they've maybe fallen from the elite, but they certainly haven't fallen from the grace of being a really damn good college baseball program. And that was the nuance of it was, man, you just don't want to lose that elite status. And you can lose that so quickly. I mean, you've seen it with Nebraska football. You've seen it with Tennessee football.
Saw Rice baseball in the early 2000s.
South Carolina baseball.
Yeah,
South Carolina,
you've seen it all across the country. So that was what we were trying to avoid, is Vanderbilt losing that true elite, biggest brand in all of college baseball. It's already kind of diluted. But
I mean, listen, Trev made this point on social media, and I got to give him his props too. I mean, listen, pressure works, So at the time, the take was very valid by all of us, and good on you for falling on the sword and applying some pressure, and they made an adjustment. And I think they heard it. Certainly they heard the chirping. And so really, I mean, you got to give credit to Hacksquat Jim Duggan. Applying some pressure. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I told Will this, and I told some other like Vandy homies that I'm in group chats with. And
I mean, you're really to credit for the run. I mean,
okay, and they were like, I don't think they could tell that I was being serious. Like, I told this to Will face to face, and I don't think he could tell that I was being like dead ass for real. I was like, call me crazy. I think I do deserve a lot of credit for this turnaround because nobody was more critical of Vanderbilt baseball than me. And as soon as they listened to me and started to do what I suggested, all of a sudden they start winning ball games and series.
There's a picture
let's face it.
Occam's razor.
It's called a spade a spade.
There's a picture of Hacksquat Jim Duggan in every locker in the VandyBoys locker room.
It's on a dartboard, probably.
I mean, yeah,
it's their motivation.
Dude, I'll be the villain if that means that turns around. That's also another story. I was also the villain for a position group for Vandy football this past year.
He's like the Dark Knight. He's not the hero that Vandy wants. It's the one it needs right now.
I was actually used.
We'll hunt him. We'll chase him.
I won't out them, but I was actually used as motivation this past season for a position group for the Vanderbilt football team, and it was. I was told their mantra was fuck Hack Squad.
There we go.
And then they go in, and the next game they beat Alabama. I don't want to be that guy.
We're just saying.
You need to talk more shit then, if that's the case.
Oh, I don't think don't encourage that, Chris. We already got to manage things on this, and we have our lawyers going in.
Just go out on a limb and pick them to go 2-Q in the regional. That'll get them going.
Ooh, I like that. Well, Chris, that's a perfect lead in to what I wanted to get into because that's enough Corbin talk. We got to talk actually what's on the horizon instead of this turnaround they've had. My secondary take last episode on episode 316 and prediction for the future of the VandyBoys season. My actual prediction was not this, but I threw it out there. Vanderbilt would make a run, win the SEC tournament, which at that point we were saying would probably give them the number 1 overall seed, and then they would get knocked out in their region. That would change the conversation we were having a lot right now. I don't think that's what's going to happen.
That was Will's take. I will add that was not my take.
Not my actual take. That was a joking take, just to put it in the back of people's minds. But you were down in Hoover, saw Vanderbilt, like you said, give up 3 total runs. Basically, they had a tight game in the championship against Ole Miss, but run through their first couple matchups, dominate Tennessee, run rule them. And then come through in the championship game, hoist the hardware. I think, what is that, 3 of the last 6?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
3 of the last 6 SEC tournaments.
Every other year. Mm-hmm.
So an incredible run, but that's not what matters. We got to talk about the actual NCAA tournament and where Vanderbilt is in the region they are in. Vanderbilt is the number 1 overall seed in the Nashville regional. They are joined by, as I take a deep breath and I seethe in anger as I try not to go on a rant about why this is absolute dog shit. Number 2 in the region is Louisville, because apparently it doesn't matter if Vanderbilt was number 1, Vanderbilt was number 5, Vanderbilt was number 8. Louisville was going to be in Vanderbilt's region. That's how it works. Whatever. I think that's dumb. We can talk about that later. 3rd in Vanderbilt's region is an unbelievably hot and hard-hitting ETSU team out of East Tennessee, out of Johnson City. That is a scary team.
I agree.
I do not like having that team in Vanderbilt's region. I talked about Austin Peay in a way reminding me of a Tennessee Tech baseball team from like 6 years back that made a run. This ETSU team also reminds me
very similar vibe
of that Tennessee Tech team, a team that hits the ball out of the ballpark, and that is scary. Number 4 in the region, not going to lie, don't know a lot about him. Feels like the correct pick for number 4, Wright State. Obviously champions their conference, but just a traditional, basically a 16 seed equivalent of the NCAA tournament. So we know quite a bit about Louisville. I've read the stats on ETSU. We saw Vanderbilt just lose a midweek matchup in the Battle of the Barrel to Louisville to close out their midweek games of the season. Chris, what kind of jumps off the page to you about the Nashville region here?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult draw. I mean, I think even Wright State, they were the ones that took Tennessee down to the wire a few years ago when they hit that walk-off grand slam, you might recall. So it's a proud program. It seems like every year they're in the conversation. So I think that's a better 4 seed than most. I mean, it's a manageable regional, but I do think it's a somewhat difficult path. I mean, you mentioned Louisville, and obviously they played earlier in the month of May, and Louisville got the best of them. Granted, it was a midweek game, and it was at their place, but
Louisville threw a lot of guys too.
Yeah, Louisville, I'm sure threw a lot at them. And then East Tennessee State. I mean, not to continue to bring up the Vols, but ETSU is the one that ended Tennessee's undefeated run to start the season at their place, and we know they can swing the absolute hell out of it. I mean, the thing I look at is it's just going to come back down to, I think, Vandy's pitching. As much as we talk about the offense, you got to be able to swing it, right? I mean, the keys to baseball, I try not to – we don't do keys of the weekend because to me they're typically all the same: pitch well, play good defense, and have timely hitting. And that's what it comes down to, hitting with runners in scoring position. You know, it's pretty much the bread and butter. But, you know, I mean, I feel good about Vandy in the regional. I mean, when you've got, you know, Thompson, Bowker, Fennell as a 1-2-3, you feel really good about where you stand. I'm curious what Corbs does from a pitching standpoint. I would assume they'll keep the rotation the same.
Well, that's been an interesting piece of conversation that I wanted to ask. So I don't mean to cut you off here.
Yeah.
They've been bringing Fennell out of the bullpen. So with Nye having a successful start, unlike the last time, he got an opportunity. Trevor, do you think that Corbin's going to go with Nye as that third starter?
I think he'll be the third starter.
Yeah,
I think Fennell will come out of the bullpen. Yeah.
Okay.
Because
he was good. He was good in Hoover. I mean, he's very good in Hoover.
I mean, Fennell, and whenever like you play a lot of games in a very short period of time, like in the bullpen, you need inning eaters. And Connor Fennell I know he's a starter, but like a traditional, like if you put him in that role, like a traditional 1970s, 1980s, like inning eater reliever that can go out there and they can throw 4, 5, 6 innings if you need him to. So that's very valuable in postseason baseball.
Yep.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and then you look what the bullpen's giving them, obviously, with a Sawyer Hawks. I think a guy that's tough as nails you can depend on, and then Miller Green, too, coming out of the pen. I mean, I think Vandy's set up really, really well from a pitching standpoint. But, you know, again, guys, it goes back to if the bats – for whatever reason, revert back in any way, you just, you know, it's going to be a nail-biting weekend at the Hawk, and you're going to be in some really tough games. So, obviously, getting off that 1-0 start's pivotal, and then, you know, you're going to have the magic of the parking garage and Hawkins behind you. So, you got to win that Saturday night game. Obviously, we talked about it before we got going. It's a late one, 8 o'clock. Everybody's going to have plenty of time to, you know, hit up Broadway or Germantown or the Gulch or the West End or wherever you want to go to get your mind right and to get to the ballpark. And I mean, I'd expect it's going to be a pretty rowdy crowd. The Whistler will be out. He'll be rocking and rolling. He was there in Hoover. He'll be getting after it. So, I do feel good. I mean, Vandy's so hot right now. They'd have to go out and, I don't want to say lay an egg because anything is possible in this game. That makes it sound like they'd have to just not show up. But it'd have to be Vandy, I think, reverting back to – because we're at a point in the season, guys, like I said, got to swing it, but great pitching beats great hitting this time of year, and Vandy's got the arms. I mean, again, this is a separate conversation, but like a J.D. Thompson, who I don't even think made the all-conference team, is just pure lunacy. I mean, one of the best aces, I think, in the SEC. You mentioned Fennell, how good he's been out of the pen. Bowker was really good too. So, yeah, I mean, I like the way it sets up, but some dangerous teams, no doubt. The familiarity with Louisville, that'll be a lot of fun if they do get them. I'll be curious to see who comes out of that Louisville ETSU game. I don't think it's any guarantee. We'll know, obviously, by the time Vandy plays, but I think you go into with a lot of confidence, but they didn't get the draw LSU got. That's for sure. Where it feels like Jay Johnson handpicked his 3 teams. So,
we have to discuss that like broader quickly because I do have questions for Chris on overall.
Yeah, we can get into that and quickly.
I do want to talk about Vanderbilt.
Yeah, though. Just to throw out there, Vanderbilt's region, 1 p.m. Central Time on Friday, May 30th. That's the date, right? May 30th.
Indeed.
This Friday.
Yes.
That's Louisville ETSU, 5 p.m. Central Time. That is Vanderbilt Wright State. So I don't think we actually said the times of those first pitches. And that's all at Hawkins Field. Saturday, we will be out there. Chef Miller is going to be out there early. I don't know what time. We will be out there on top of the 25th Ave garage at some point.
I'll probably be out there about 1.
You know, guys, on a side note, people were asking me what regional you going to, where's SECU going to be? And I think my guy Harrison might be going somewhere. My guy Dave Shoemate, big Bama guy, he's going down to Hattiesburg. My plan was we're just going to do content from the studio. Obviously, I'm about 10 minutes from the West End, so maybe Saturday might have to venture out. I don't know that I'll go to the game, but might have to venture to the garage and pop the head in. say what's up to the boys.
A very underrated spot to watch a baseball game.
Well, I mean, I've never done it. I mean, I feel
We'll
like you got to check this off.
You get the live part. We also have a TV set up that's playing the actual stream of the game. So you see what happens on the field from a bird's eye view, and then you see what actually happened on the screen in front of you. So it's
who knows? My plans are TBD Saturday. You never know. You just never know.
We will see. You mentioned the Hattiesburg Regional. So the region. So I want to get to that as well. That is who Vanderbilt would play, the winner of that region, if they were to make it out of Nashville. That region is hosted by Southern Miss, but also in that region is Alabama, Miami, and Columbia. I look at that region. I'm not sure who's going to come out, but it feels like Southern Miss or Alabama. Chris, I don't know if you have any thoughts on possibly a Vanderbilt-Alabama super regional coming up, but I just don't know a lot about Southern Miss, and I don't know if you do either, Trevor.
The Pete will be jumping. That's for sure. That's what they call it down there at Southern Miss. It'll be popping. It's a really good baseball program, obviously, for anybody that follows college baseball. Southern Miss is as good as any. We haven't locked in our picks yet. I do like Bama and Miami, to be honest with you. Miami's been very hot and cold, but when they're hot, they're another one kind of similar to Bama where they're going to pitch really well, and it's just what do you get out of the offense? Talking to Bama folks, I know they've mentioned they'd love to get another shot at the Doors because they felt like they let that one get away, giving up the, 5-run lead or something late. Obviously, Doors walk them off. So, depending on the opponent, it's going to be a fun conversation for who comes into Hawkins, again, assuming Vandy takes care of their business. But, again, Vandy got a very interesting path, no doubt. They're going to have to earn their way to Omaha. And, I think whoever the super is, it's going to be some really electric arms going at it. It's so easy to pick against Southern Miss because, I feel the same way about Florida from the standpoint. If you're an SEC team and you got to go on the road for a regional, with all due respect to those guys, you're going to take going to the mid-major school over Chapel Hill or Tallahassee or wherever else every single time, right? So, Vandy's got to handle their business first, but Bama already beat Southern Miss too. I know it was a midweek, but they already beat them. So it does set up well for the Crimson Tide. They've also got a potential to lay an egg, go 2-Q. So that one's tough. That one's really tough to pick. And I don't really know that I have a solid pick right now. But again, we talk about the hitting so much, and you got to continue to hit if you're Vandy. But this is where the arms really have to shine, I think, for the Doors, because you're going to be in some tight, low-scoring games, I think.
Yeah, I'll say hitting on Southern Miss. I'm very high on Southern Miss. Good offensive team. I will say though, one of the best pitchers in America, in JB Middleton, for Southern Miss, throws absolute heat and is a borderline first-round Major League Baseball prospect for this upcoming draft. So that kid is good. They've got him slated right at 31, so right in the first, second-round cusp. That kid's gas.
Yeah. So we have in segment 2. We have our lawyers, allegedly, Blake Fromang and George Barclay joining. We're going to talk a little more detailed Vanderbilt baseball, I think, with them, and they're going to have some thoughts. But, Chris, you're the man when it comes to college baseball coverage. I listen to a lot of SEC Unfiltered. So, looking at this tournament as a whole, what are some – because I'm sure we have thoughts as well, but I want to hear yours. What are some regions and some seeding that stick out as very difficult or easy draws? Or is it, do you think the NCAA tournament committee just got it all right?
I think they did a pretty good job. Some that jump out, I think Auburn being the 4 overall national seed, that felt a little high to me. The only top 8 national seed without 40 overall wins. Granted, again, they were very good in non-conference. They swept through that tournament. They played in Arlington. They beat an Oregon State, who's obviously one of the best teams in the country. Had a very, very difficult schedule, right? Had a very difficult schedule. They took down Vandy in that series on the Plains, I believe. It was really early in the season, but I think it was opening weekend of conference play. And they took 2 of 3 from them, swept LSU at home. I think that's the big one they hang their hat on. They beat Alabama 2 out of 3. So, but for the overall, the 4 seed, and they've got, I think, a very workable regional. It's not seeding wise, but LSU is the 6. Again, I say this, I got nothing but love for LSU, obviously, but their regional is just a joke. Dallas Baptist is good. Do not get me wrong. That's a really, really good mid-major program. But Rhode Island and Little Rock, the other 2. And again, I've been told by people that Little Rock, apparently they got somebody that bumps 99, 100 miles an hour, which is crazy. That I think they won 22 games, has a guy like that. But, that's what makes this so interesting, guys, and postseason baseball so much fun. All these smaller teams, they've all got a dude. And that's why in baseball, any given day, anybody can beat anybody. Ole Miss, I think, got a tough draw getting Georgia Tech. Obviously, is the two. Georgia Tech, we all saw the shot of them stone cold. Besides that one guy that didn't get the assignment was clapping when they got their regional.
I was about to bring that up. I think Oxford is a tough regional.
Oxford's tough, and they're matched up with Athens, which, Georgia's got Duke, who's beaten them at their place before in a regional, but playing at Foley, they've been one of the best teams in the country at home. So you feel good about the Dogs. And then there's that team over on the east side of the state, the Vols, that, did what they needed to do in Hoover to earn a hosting bid. But, admittedly, Tennessee makes me a little bit nervous because they've been so inconsistent, so up and down. I think Tony's had some really interesting comments about them, especially the one I'm sure you guys saw the Monday of the SEC tournament where he said, this is an emotional team. And when we get down, we don't really know. We don't have the firepower. We're not able to respond to it at times like we'd like to. And I thought that was a really telling comment, especially after they had some fun with me on the timeline. I'm like, well, Tony just echoed exactly what I said, that we need to cut out the theatrics and go win some baseball games. And let's not try to pick fights with people after we lose a series or whatever. So, but Tennessee's always dangerous, obviously. I think you look at it, the committee, it feels like they want to check some boxes, right, wrong, or indifferent. They want to get a couple West Coast hosts in. Not saying they're not deserving, but they want to get a couple West Coast. They want to get a pair of mid-majors, and they got them both from the Sun Belt with both Southern Miss and with Coastal Carolina. I love Florida going to Coastal. I mean, as somebody who's pulling for Florida very openly to win that regional, I think it sets up really, really well for the Gators. They open up with East Carolina in there, but I mean, again, you're an SEC team on the road. Like you're going to take that over where you could have gone. Texas makes me nervous. They got a UTSA team in their regional that they lost to in the midweek, kind of how a Louisville game went for Vandy. They lost to UTSA early in the season, and Texas is a little bit undermanned right now. I mean, they don't have their ace and Jared Spencer, so what are they doing on the bump? Obviously, their pitching coach Max Weiner is one of the best in the business, and we'll figure it out. But it's for the most part, like I didn't feel. I mean, Georgia Tech not getting a host site, that one
feels disrespectful.
Regular season ACC champs. And again, I don't think Ole Miss is thrilled to get them by any means. But, all in all, I mean, I think I thought Troy could have gotten in the field. That one was a little bit interesting. You can argue, did Virginia get screwed because they didn't play a series because of the fatal events that happened at Florida State? But all in all, I mean, I think the field is pretty solid. And, it's certainly, I mean, Mike Rooney, a D1 baseball, who I got nothing but respect for, had him on the show. He's a good dude, but we got people talking about let's expand the field to 60. I'm like, please, for the love of God, like leave that for football. Let football have that shenanigans. I think we've got a great field of 64. If you're not good enough to make the top 64, then it just is what it is. So, I mean, it's and then we got the matchup with potentially Nashville regional and the Hattiesburg regional. So I think there's a lot of fun matchups. There's obviously a lot of SEC representation. What does Oklahoma do in Chapel Hill? What does Kentucky do in Clemson? Can Mississippi State make some noise in Tallahassee? And guys, the upsets are going to happen. You obviously hope and pray to God it's not your team. Vandy hopes it's not them, but somebody's getting beat. Some one seed's getting beat. I mean, it's just no question. There's going to be a 4 that beats a 1. There's going to be a 1 that loses their regional. But 6 of the 8 top 8 national seeds coming from the SEC, half of the hosts coming from the conference. I mean, it's the best conference in college baseball, and it's just not even particularly close. So I didn't even mention Arkansas, by the way, who is one that their regional feels really, really manageable. But last 2 years, Arkansas haven't been able to get out of their own home regional. So they scared the hell out of me too. So, it's going to be fun. I mean, bottom line, I say all that to say it's going to be a really, really fun weekend. And I like the way the doors are set up. I really do. They've got the arms. They're riding high, feeling good, got a lot of momentum. I know, Trev, you said like the SEC tournament, it doesn't matter from the standpoint it's not the end-all be-all, but this is a game of momentum, and this is a game of getting hot. And, I mean, you couldn't have asked for better run to close out regular season and then that tournament coming in than what they did. So I think they should be able to ride that momentum, ride that hot streak. But yeah, a lot of great matchups across the country. And again, I think we're on a path to have, I'd say 4, if not 5 SEC teams in Omaha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that feels about right. I've just been scrolling through the bracket here as you've been going through it, kind of getting a feel on top of the research I've already been doing. But Chris, just before we close it out here and get to segment 2 and start discussing baseball, but also the Zakai Ziegler and disruption of eligibility within all of college athletics with our lawyers next segment, I do want to ask you the classic question. Are there any Cinderellas or dark horses that you see right now that could sneak their way into Omaha across this board?
Kentucky.
You think so?
I think Kentucky. I'm high on
Really?
Kentucky.
I made a terrible pick into the season and picked Kentucky to beat Vandy, and I just moved here too, which felt sacrilegious. But no, so, I mean that was part of the man. I really do need to tip the cap to Core because I kept doubting them down the stretch. Dark horses. That's a good question because I said even before the season that I think when you looked at the rosters, so many of these SEC rosters now are composed of guys that came from mid-majors. Like you look at LSU, they get a guy from Utah Valley, UC San Diego, Indiana State. An Indiana State kid, I think, went to LSU as well. Like, I think it's going to be real. Like, I don't want to say it's going to be chalk, but I think it's going to be pretty chalky. I just think this is where the cream rises to the top. We're going to have upsets for sure in the regional round. There's no doubt. But I think when we get to supers and we get to Omaha, when we look at those Omaha 8, the thing about baseball, guys, because we play it in series, it's not just a one-game sample size. The best teams separate themselves. So as far as a dark horse, though, of who could, I mean, do you consider Bama a dark horse? I mean, they're an SEC team. I'm just trying to think, man. Like,
yeah, the only one
it's tough to say.
Answered what I was asking for, to be honest. I mean, I don't want to say a lead-in question there, but the reason I asked that is we saw what happened in the NCAA tournament in basketball. That was the effects of all of these players transferring out of these mid-major programs and the explosion of that happening before the previous season. I mean, Florida went there with a Belmont player as one of their leading scorers. I mean, that's a guy that would have been on Belmont's roster 5 years ago. And Belmont would have had a hell of a team. They had a guy transfer to Maryland. They had a guy transfer to UNC. So that's kind of what I was asking is, I mean, is there going to be a dark horse? We love the idea of a Cinderella, but in modern college sports, I mean, those Cinderellas are built by recruiting undervalued guys, and those undervalued guys are going to bigger programs now.
Yeah.
So
there's some, just looking through Kansas State and the Austin Regional, I think could make some noise. Scrappy team. UC Irvine as the 2 in the UCLA region could make some noise. I mean, I could go through each of them. I mean, Duke for me was a preseason. That was an Omaha pick for me. They're the 2 seed there in Athens. Georgia Tech, obviously, in Oxford. They're one that jumps out. Western Kentucky's a scrappy club in Oxford. Again, we know they got a tough draw. I mean, guys, West Virginia, that's one in the Clemson Regional I think could absolutely win that regional. Cincinnati in the Knoxville Regional, Wake Forest, obviously, I think they're going to, the baseball is going to be flying out of Lindsey Nelson. Kansas in Fayetteville, Creighton's a good program. They're trying to get to Omaha where they obviously are located, but Kansas, they've been, I think they say, pack the hog. They've been packing the hog all season. They'll try to take it to the Hogs. Now I'm just going through all of them, but
yeah, I've got one, Chris. And I also wanted to say this one because I don't know if I'm going to remember it in a minute. So I did a little bit of research before this, so I wasn't a complete idiot when talking about the tournament in general. Northeastern in the Tallahassee Regional, 27-game win streak. I just wanted to throw that out there because I haven't heard that anywhere. I was just reading through articles, and they were like, yeah, there's a team in here that hasn't lost since April 9th. And so I just had to throw that out. Like, they match up with Mississippi State game 1.
Yeah, so, my question with them is, have they seen a Pico gone? And I don't know, that they have.
That was what I was about to say. Was that team is interesting to me for one reason. they could come out and if I was putting money on it, I would probably say Mississippi State's going to come out and beat them. And that's going to destroy that confidence. But if they win that first game against Mississippi State, that's my Cinderella.
Yeah,
because confidence is a drug in and of itself. But they have to get that first real win.
Yeah.
That's the part is if they get that first real win, then it opens up a world. But I can also see them getting absolutely drugged by Mississippi State 1 and 2 and Q. So
and State's a good dark horse, man. I mean, listen, they're not carrying the pressure of saving a coach's job. I mean, if there's a team that truly has nothing to lose, it's Mississippi State. I mean, it's all a wash at this point. I mean, again, they're getting a new coach. You saw how it affected them after they got rid of Lamonis. And I was actually talking to some State fans in Hoover that pretty close to the program. They mentioned talking to people that it just lifted a burden off that entire group. So, that's a team certainly that I think Mississippi State, they've got a really deep plethora of arms. They can get hot, with Khan obviously, and then Sierra in the game 2 role, and got a deep bullpen. And for them, it'll just pick the click. Can they swing it enough? I think they got some good sticks, but they'll have to go through Florida State, who's a fantastic team. Obviously, could have argued they should have been a top 8, but yeah, I mean, I think State's also a dark horse. So and again, you have to try to think outside of the box when you're picking these, because we know they're not all going to go chalk. But again, I just say in regards to Omaha, again, I even said it before the season started, I think the Cinderella story in college baseball is all but dead. I don't think you're going to see I'm not saying it's never going to happen, but the days of like Stony Brook getting there or Coastal winning it all, that feels a little far-fetched when, to beat the teams you need to beat, you need all hands on deck. And a lot of those hands are going to the top schools now. Mm-hmm. So it's great for us. It's great for us covering the SEC, but yeah, for the mid-majors, it gets even tougher. But, there will be upsets, but we get that Omaha 8. I don't know if it's going to be just SEC and ACC again, but I'm also not going to say it'd surprise me if that's what we got.
Yeah, I would ask you now, Chris, before we close it out, I would ask you your prediction for national champion, but you already stated that you have not locked in your picks yet. So,
well, I'll answer the question though. I mean, it's okay. And it's if I had to pick a team right now to win it all, and it is, like you said, so difficult. It's hard to even pick the 8 that'll get to Omaha. But I'd go LSU. I mean, the path to Omaha for them.
They got you in that RV. They brainwashed you. They brainwashed you.
Well, listen, the regional's a breeze. All due respect, the regional's a breeze. And they're either going to get Clemson or Kentucky or West Virginia at the box. Guys, they're playing postseason baseball at Alex Box Stadium. I don't care who they're taking on. In my mind, LSU's already in Omaha. We just have to play the games and get them there. I could end up being the ultimate jinx, but I think that's what they feel too. So, that LSU team, listen, if Arkansas does not vomit all over themselves and makes it, because that's what guys, I'm not even sure just based off pure principle, I'm going to pick Arkansas to win their regional. Last year I picked them to win it all and they lose to SEMO and get knocked out. Mm-hmm. So, if Arkansas is able to get there, I've said it for quite a while. I said it after I saw them in Nashville. I mean, I still think you could argue Arkansas is the most complete team in the country. Just 1 through 9, one of the best offenses. They spin it really well. Obviously, starting rotation's great. Root's been a little bit up and down. He's got to be a dude for them. He's got to really, really have a special postseason. But starting rotation's fantastic. They got a deep bullpen. They play great defense. They have a legendary head coach in Dave Van Horn. We all know they have never won one before. So but I think they've got a new crop of guys that I don't think will be trying to carry the burden of past teams' transgressions, if you will. I think that's something that maybe over the last 2 years, there's a lot of pressure in the postseason. There's pressure in baseball in general. But it seemed like these teams in the past few years, it was like the demons crept in. And it's like they're playing not to lose versus playing to win. Mm-hmm. So Arkansas can get to Omaha. I like their shot as much as any. But listen, I'm not going to jump off here without mentioning the VandyBoys. I mean,
hell yeah!
There we go.
When you have the arms like they do, and if the sticks can stay hot, we saw it down the stretch, guys. I mean, we saw it down the stretch. You've got the pitching, I think, to go toe-to-toe with anyone. It is just, can they continue to manufacture, like Hack Squat said, extra base hits? Can we continue to see the extra base hits? And, big-time players going to make big-time plays in big-time games. R.J. Austin's your star. Can he continue to be that star player for you? And some of those other guys I mentioned, the Holcombs, the Vastines, some of the others, can they continue to be big pieces for you? The Riley Nelsons, obviously, who hit 366 in SEC play. Bargsy as well was a big one for them. So a lot of guys really came into their own offensively. I said this, guys, and I'll see if you agree with me. I said this throughout the season. Vandy's pitching sets the floor for them, and it's a really high floor. The offense controls the ceiling.
Yep.
So if you're telling me that Vanderbilt stays hot offensively, they can absolutely win a national championship. But it's a long next 4 weeks or so, 3.5 weeks or so, that you got to keep swinging it well. But if they can, Vandy will be as tough out as any as well. So I know I didn't – I guess I kind of did give you a pick. If gun to head right now, maybe they did brainwash me. If you ate that food and drank that drink, you would be brainwashed too. I'd go LSU, but it feels pretty wide open. I got to be honest with you. It feels pretty wide open at this point.
Yeah, it feels wide open. You mentioned Vanderbilt. There was a common discussion point we had.
And by the way, not to cut you off, what a run it would be. Trev, they win it all.
Man.
We need a State of the Union for the door report.
If they win it all, me and Will have already been like workshopping ideas of like a punishment for me to do that. I would be totally. I would.
Oh, you'd be ecstatic.
I actually came to Will and was like, if they do it, like we need to punish me somehow and like make us.
You'd be ecstatic to do it. Absolutely.
Yeah, deservedly so.
Just doubt them all the way to the title.
But the thing with Vanderbilt is they showed, we had a discussion point that was like, this team, once they get down, it feels like it's over. And in the offense, and like you said, the pitching sets the floor. If the pitching isn't there, then it's just, that's it. Game over. And even though it wasn't in dominant fashion, that Kentucky series showed me something. It made me feel like they're down a few runs going into late innings, and it's not just over. This offense does have pop, does have situational hitting capabilities.
But how crazy like that game 2 was. I mean, you give up you gave up the lead in the top of the ninth, only to walk it off again in the bottom. Yeah, those are character building kind of wins. Those are the ones that really talk about building momentum, building confidence. I'm sure the VandyBoys are rolling in this weekend. They're feeling pretty good about the fact, hey, you got to come through us. So it all runs through us. So, yeah, I'm excited, man. I mean, like I said, TBD on my weekend plans in regards to Saturday and Sunday, but I would love to see what that atmosphere is like. It was a pretty good crowd. I mean, it was a pretty damn good crowd when I came out there for the Arkansas series, but I got to imagine postseason baseball at the Hawk and postseason baseball at the parking garage, it's a little bit different.
It should be a hell of a time. We have a hell of a weekend of baseball in front of us. Chris, we are about to enter the TDR cocktail break. So we're about to ask all of the listeners to grab themselves a hot or cold alcoholic or non-alcoholic beverage. And Chris, anything else you want to add on here before we close it out? I want to thank you again for taking the time with
thank
us
you,
here
Chris.
this week. I know it's a crazy busy week for you.
No, I want to thank you guys, man. It's and obviously you and I we'll be chopping it up, talking a little bit more in depth. Nashville regional, so excited for that. But no, I want to say thank you to all the Vandy fans that are out there tuned in, that have embraced us and followed along with SEC Unfiltered. It's been really cool to see the embrace by the Doors. I mean, again, I think there's this narrative that is, I think, incorrect by a lot of SEC fan bases, that Vandy's not a rabid fan base, and maybe they might not be as great in number, but I would dare you to check, like when we came to Nashville and talked about it post weekend, check the engagement numbers, check the Vandy. It's just been really cool to see the embrace.
We got to add on. I'm not saying this is one of the things we are proudest of with TDR. Go try to talk some shit about Vanderbilt on Twitter in the comments on any post. And we have created quite an anthill of, we don't know who they are, and just accounts with under 100 followers that are following fans.
Yeah.
The Vandy Burnerverse.
We
the Vandy
called for the
Burnerverse.
listeners. And by God, they answered in a way we never could have imagined. So, Chris, thanks again for taking the time. Follow Chris at SEC Unfiltered across everything, at CPhilly19 personally across everything. So Thank you again, Chris.
Yeah,
And,
thank you,
look
Chris.
forward to a hell of a weekend and tune into SEC Unfiltered for the best college baseball coverage in the country. So everybody out there, grab yourself a cold one, and we'll be right back after the TDR cocktail break. Welcome back from the TDR cocktail break, and welcome back into episode 317 of the Door Report. I am still Will Byrum. This is still Trevor Hulan. Do we look handsomer? Maybe.
More handsome.
We are joined by TDR's alleged attorneys, George Barclay and Blake Fromang. George, Blake, thank you for taking this very serious time with us this evening.
Glad to be here. Trevor, what?
It's time for the law. So get ready. Buckle up and get ready for some justice. And
what a
Trevor,
start.
you look like Count Dracula right now. You look absolutely insane.
Let me suck your blood.
Yeah, you stay away from my family.
I would never go down to Florida with all you Yanks, all you rich Yank.
Gotta gather myself here. We are, if you were just like, man, TDR cocktail break, they're going to be coming back completely the same. Nope.
We got liquored
Different.
up.
Yeah, we are different now. Yeah, not liquored up, just insane looking. Trevor, you look like a homeless man. You look like the man that I pass every day next to the Circle K down the road. But
Somebody was like, dude, come to my office for a job interview. This is all I got, dude.
we talked in segment 1 that you guys just listened to Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. We did a full breakdown of the SEC tournament, of Vanderbilt's draw in the NCAA tournament, and kind of a future outlook on the college baseball NCAA tournament. So to switch gears just a little bit, we want to hear George and Blake's thoughts on baseball, and we will get to that with the premium message board questions. But first, there is something that has been lost in all this shuffle of college baseball and a little bit of excitement surrounding the NCAA tournament reveal. There's a big story going on right now in college athletics, and it relates to the team in orange out east. Zakai Ziegler played for 4 seasons for the Tennessee Volunteers, 30-plus games in each season, has filed, and if I'm using any incorrect words here, please correct me when I swing it to you guys, and you will have all the time in the world to correct my idiotic statements, has filed a suit in East Tennessee suing for a 5th year of eligibility under the... What are you laughing at?
I don't know why Blake's smiling and is making
Trevor,
me
I
smile.
can't. I just keep looking at you, bro. I can't take
I
it
see him
seriously.
smiling. I want to
I'm
smile.
sorry. I'm like, you're there trying your best, but my God.
He keeps smirking. It's making me smirk.
George, you're not looking at him like, what the absolute fuck?
Serious discussions.
Yeah, I'm trying to be serious and Trevor's over there.
You look like a boxcar hobo.
Like, I look like a public defender.
That's the when Coach Carter said, "Go get a suit from the dollar store." The Goodwill.
They got 50-cent ties down at the
50 cent
Salvation
ties.
Army.
Yeah, that's the Coach Carter suit. Okay, let's get serious now. Trevor, just don't look at me the rest of the episode.
Okay, I'm not going to look at you.
All right, look away.
No, I'm not gonna look at
Blake, you look the other direction. All right. Zakai Ziegler has filed for a 5th year of eligibility, claiming that the NCAA's 5-year clock allowing college players to play 4 seasons of athletics violates antitrust laws. That's the basics of it. I will read the official statement. I believe this is from the Knoxville Sentinel. I'm not sure. I just have a screenshot of this quick paragraph kind of summarizing things. I will read that and then swing it to George and Blake for their legal view as practicing attorneys on what is going on. So the title of this is Zakai Ziegler files lawsuit against NCAA regarding eligibility from May 20th. Tennessee basketball player Zakai Ziegler has filed a lawsuit seeking to compete in the 2025-26 college basketball season. The lawsuit alleges that the NCAA's rule permitting only 4 seasons of competition within the 5-year eligibility window is an unlawful restraint of trade under federal and state antitrust laws. We've requested a preliminary injunction to allow Zakai to compete in the upcoming season while pursuing his graduate studies. We look forward to a swift resolution to this matter so that Zakai can begin preparing for next season. Ziegler is represented by Litson PLLC and Garza Law Firm. Litson PLLC is a boutique law firm focused on white-collar criminal defense and high-stakes litigation. That's all the statement. I certainly have thoughts. Trevor certainly has thoughts. But we've heard a lot of people on sports radio talking about this in not the most intelligent and educated fashion. So I don't know who wants to go first, but precedent, what we've seen with the Pavia lawsuit relating to JUCO versus prep school eligibility. I just want to hear your guys' takes on it, whatever you guys think. Is it going to be successful? Does it have merit? What's going on here?
Sure. Well, basically, the crux of this case is whether the NCAA's 4-year eligibility limit is reasonable. And basically, with Ziegler's attorneys seeking a preliminary injunction is a court order for a party not to do something. So essentially, they're asking for the court in East Tennessee to order the NCAA not to enforce their 4-year rule when it comes to Ziegler. And essentially, what it comes down to from this Alston case, which is the big Supreme Court case that kind of struck down the NCAA rules on players being compensated, there is this standard referred to as the rule of reason. So basically, the NCAA just has to show that there's some logic behind their rules regarding eligibility. And in addition to that, the NCAA has to show that their rules against players competing for 5+ years are not anti-competitive. And in short, I don't think that this lawsuit has much merit. I'd honestly be saying the same thing if it was a Vanderbilt player, even though I hate University of Tennessee with a passion. I hate checkered orange and white, but regardless, the big thing here is Ziegler was a 4-year starter, or I think at least a 4-year starter, definitely at least 3 at the University of Tennessee.
Played 30+ games in all.
Yeah. Yeah, essentially the entire time that he was in college, he was able to earn money through NIL because this Alston case came down in the right before the start of the 2021 season. And I think a court would potentially look at this lawsuit with some wide eyes saying, really, you didn't have enough time to maximize your value as a collegiate player when, unlike some of these other players who are having to get back pay or sue for additional years because of when NIL went into effect, that's not the case for Ziegler. He was a very successful player at Tennessee. He played a long time. Unlike Diego Pavia, he's going to have a tough time showing how this rule was anti-competitive against him because there's not really an arbitrary kind of discrimination in this rule that the NCAA has in place. Whereas with Pavia, you had the prep school players who were not docked a year of eligibility, whereas JUCO players like Pavia were. And then these same players were playing against each other before coming to the NCAA. That created essentially a group of, I guess, for lack of a better term, second-class athletes, which is what led to Pavia's lawsuit being successful, in my opinion. Additionally, I think Ziegler's attorneys are probably going to try to argue that the COVID rule was arbitrarily applied. However, COVID, that whole rule came into effect because of a limited emergency due to the pandemic. And the designated year was the 2020 to 2021 season, whereas Ziegler entered college 2021 to 2022. And so it doesn't apply. And because there's not this discriminatory rule in place that negatively impacted Ziegler, like Pavia, I think they're going to have a tough time in court. Blake, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, George, you pretty much nailed all the highlights. Just a couple other things I want to touch on is everyone saw the Pavia lawsuit is, oh, the NCAA is getting it. They're getting checked. It's open season on the NCAA. And just a strict, reading of that decision and the analysis by the court in the Pavia decision, essentially what it signaled to me was they're looking for really a narrow exception like what George was talking about. There's no reasonable explanation for why the law or the rules applied as it is. Pavia won because it didn't make sense, to penalize JUCO players versus prep school players. Especially, it was what was argued during the hearing and shown is that these prep schools were playing JUCOs and JUCOs were playing the prep schools. The competition was the same. Essentially, the court was like, a rose by any other name, still a rose. You can call a prep school JUCO, they should be treated the exact same. So the court really ran with that argument, and that's what won the day for Pavia. It was a very limited carve out, for him. Now, the other case that went on was the Tennessee baseball player. I think it's Zuna.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to George in depth about this, and I'm not trying to steal your thunder, George. So I'll credit to him. He looked at the docket and the briefs. I read a little bit of it. It looks, that decision happened after Pavia. It was pretty, what we say in the legal field, factually analogous, meaning somewhat similar, borderline identical situations there. And the court, interestingly, went a different way than it did in the Pavia decision. And George, again, credit to him here, he really dug in. And what it appeared to be was, instead of going with the golden goose here and making just a JUCO prep school argument, as soon as lawyers advanced different arguments as their main argument, it appeared, and had the Pavia argument there, but it wasn't the main argument they lodged forward. Instead, they tried to make this, argument that, he's more valuable than the incoming freshman coming in. Just a bunch of arguments that really, those are what, if you're a legal writer, those would be your third and fourth arguments in the brief. You wouldn't lead off with those. While, they're plausible, I think the lack of hammering home the point on what the court in Pavia found persuasive ended up being fatal. And that's important, because where Ziegler's lawsuit is filed is in the Eastern District of Tennessee, which is Knoxville, same as where Osuna's filed. Pavia got a favorable ruling in the Middle District, but the bad case law from the Osuna case is exactly where Ziegler filed. Now, they're different. While they're filing under the same Sherman Act, the arguments and the facts are a little bit different, but it's not great that there's a decision favoring the NCAA out of the same exact district that Ziegler is having his there. So I'm adding on to George. I agree with George. I don't think this is going to be successful. It went from, a wide open spigot of attack the NCAA every which way you could, to now they're really trying to limit it and find what is absolutely, an unjustified rule versus what can be reasoned. And I think, to hit on George's points, it can be reasoned because he had 4 years of opportunity with the NIL ruling in effect. As stated in the complaint, which I actually think cuts against Ziegler, is they do say that, some players have the opportunity to redshirt or opt for a year out or all of that stuff. But, put it in the ballpark and context of the NCAA. The NCAA doesn't control that decision. The coaches and the players do. If Ziegler, the NCAA didn't stop Ziegler from taking a redshirt year. They didn't stop him from taking a gap year like he complains that other athletes have the opportunity to do. So, where Pavia gets that automatic 1 year eligibility loss, Ziegler did have room to maneuver under this rule to take the gap year if he was trying to maximize NIL. So really, I don't see it necessarily in terms of he's going to win. you might as well try. I get strike while the iron's hot, but I don't see it playing out here. And I hate Tennessee more than anybody else, but I cheer for players and I want everyone to make as much money as they can. I hope he wins, but I don't see it, guys.
I'll ask this. I know that you guys have stated that you don't think this goes forward in his favor. This might be jumping the horse a little bit. If this was found in Zakai Ziegler's favor, what does this mean for the future of NCAA athletics and NCAA athletes? Does this basically open up the floodgates even more than we thought NIL would, in that you can just go to school and just play college athletics your entire life?
That was exactly my question.
And then if that is the case, a follow-up would be, wouldn't there have to be some sort of collective bargaining agreement between players and schools?
I'll answer the first part of that. I don't think it's ever going to expand to you can play your entire life. I think logically the next step is the NCAA, and they've been talking about it. It's been briefed in every case. They've been talking about the idea of just making it 5 years of eligibility. The problem I see with that idea is, how do you apply it retroactively or backwards, or everyone else who's gotten, for lack of a better term, screwed? Do they get to come back? What happened if they do? What happens to all the freshman commits? Do they lose their spot? It cuts both ways where, yay, great for college players. But if you get to stay 5 years in school, that can absolutely, negatively impact recruiting. It's going to force a lot of kids out. There's only, now there's limited roster spots. You have to look at not only the pros, but the cons of this. And I think while there are some pros of letting some people make some more money in college, the NCAA wants to get kids in and out and give kids opportunities. I think that's going to take away opportunities from a lot of kids.
Yeah, I mean, Trevor asked the question I just was about to ask you guys. The part that confuses me is I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand this. So I understand that independent bodies have the right to govern themselves. So as long as they don't have a monopoly on whatever it is. Where I get confused is when you start referring to these things and you're talking about limiting athletes based on years played. I feel like in law, and this is not a technical term, you can have minimums. You can say you have to be 18 years old. You have to be 21 years old. But you can't have maximums in things. And I understand that your logic would say, well, yeah, these are college athletes. The purpose of the NCAA, which we've lost in all this money stuff, is to educate young people with athletic scholarships that otherwise they would not have the opportunity to receive. And they would not have the opportunity to better themselves through education. That's the idea of college athletics. We've lost that somewhere. But I know that logically it's like, no, these are college athletics. But as long as you are enrolled in courses at that school, is there a legal precedent where an organization is like, no, you've done this exact job for outside of politics? They don't even have that in politics. They don't have term limits. But it's like, how do you justify that with it just being an objective? Like, they don't have an age limit in the NFL. They're not like, you've played 20 seasons, no more seasons for you. Like, there's no precedent for that unless I'm missing it here. So, like, how does that not spiral into just, this is now semi-pro ball?
I think, to Blake's point, I think a key fact here is just the limited roster spaces, that there's only a finite amount of players who can be on the rosters for these teams at one time, which is a little bit different from, say, somebody who's getting an adult education at a large university, whereas universities have, especially public ones, have a lot more say in how many students they admit. Whereas with a basketball team, you're working with 15 guys. Football, I forget what the NCAA roster limit is. You only have so many scholarships that you can give out. And one of the key aspects of the Sherman Act and sort of antitrust law is that it's designed not to create monopolies. And The danger I see if somebody like Ziegler wins is you could have an unintended effect of some of these teams with some of these tweener players who are really good college players, but they can't quite hack it in the pros, getting to stay longer and kind of unleveling the playing field. I think one of the best parts of the transfer portal has been some of the parity. I mean, look at the year that Vanderbilt football had last year and what they were able to do in the portal. That wouldn't have been possible under the old rules and framework. And I think the danger with giving somebody like Ziegler an extra year is that you potentially muddy the waters there. And what I will say too, Will, to your question about rules, is the NCAA, under the standard that the court laid out in the Alston case, the Supreme Court, the rule doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be logical, and it can't be applied arbitrarily. And it's very similar to in constitutional law. There's this framework called rational basis scrutiny, which is the lowest level. And it's a very similar analysis. There just has to be some logic behind the federal law. I mean, in the NCAA's case, it's a private organization that's not a federal law, but because it's sort of the only show in town, operates in a similar way. So that's sort of where that rule of reason comes from.
I will ask too, how does that, and then this might not make sense, so I might have to clarify. How does the NCAA, being a private institution, work whenever they work in conjunction with public institutions, state-funded government institutions? Does that make sense? Is there like a qualm or like a conundrum you have there?
No, I mean, it's all contract law. Like state entities, just like private entities, just like quasi-public entities. Contract law applies equally to everybody. Like Will was asking if there's any precedent on this issue. College football is kind of its own beast, but contract law applies to colleges the same as it applies to if you and I entered into a contract. So what I'm trying to get at here is whether it's a state or private institution, they've all entered into an agreement to be enrolled with the NCAA, who's basically the administrative body that oversees everything, polices it, makes sure it's fine. It's just, I don't know a wonderful example to tell you exactly what that role would be like different than that, but they all say, okay, we're an NCAA member. As such, all of these rules apply to you, everyone who signs up. So there's not necessarily a qualm with it at all, regardless, of state, public, private, it's all the same. Like all the contracts are enforceable the same. The rules are enforceable the same. And really the recourse, if you're like, fuck it, I don't want to do this anymore, you're out. I mean, at the end of the day, if you take it to its logical conclusion, in no school, they lose every bit of their athletic department if they get out of it. But, they agreed to do it. No one has formed a different commission. Everyone has abided by it. No one's saying you can't form like an NCAA adjacent entity. Just no one has done it yet.
Which, based on some of the quotes from Greg Sankey recently, might be on the horizon. I've listened to everything, read a lot of stuff. I won't give my take on that yet. I'm not one to take like some moral high ground for the good of college athletics, but man, some of the stuff Greg Sankey is saying is like, dude, you're not bigger than this sport. And that's where it sits wrong with me. It's Greg Sankey, and the quotes he has had are speaking as if he is the representative of the fans of the sport, and he's not. He is the representative of the Southeastern Conference. Some of the things have been good in terms of reaching dominance of the SEC. But as far as for the good of college athletics, I heard some stupid takes from a dude like Josh Pate. I think like, did the games feel any different? And I'm like, yes, all of college athletics has changed and feels unbelievably different. You no longer have the same connection with players that you did a decade ago. You don't have that ride or die. This is my guy. He chose this school and he's here, so I'm going to support him even if he has rough times. You don't have that anymore. This is a quasi-professional athletic league. And so I'm tired of every talking head having to spin the wheel in the direction of this is all good and fun. I don't need fucking press passes. This is not all good. This is not all great. This is not all good for college sports. Look at what just happened with the NCAA tournament. Cinderellas are dead. A lot of the things we loved about college athletics are dying in front of our eyes. And everyone is just sitting saying, it's great. Good, the players can get paid. I'm like, yes, that aspect is good. But the secondary effects are felt by everyone. And first and foremost, it's felt by the fans. And I'm tired of hearing people on their high horse in their ivory tower like Greg Sankey and like Josh Pate telling fans how to feel and telling them they know what's best. And it's like, you're going to be gone in 20 years. Fans are still going to be here. So we can get to message board questions. I think you guys did an incredible
That was
job.
awesome. Yeah.
I've listened to everything you can imagine breaking down this Zakai
Every
Ziegler
talking
case.
head. Yeah.
This was actual logic, facts, what is going on, instead of people being like, well, I just feel like it's a little unfair that these guys. I say, why not?
Yeah.
Let him play. It's like, that's an idiot talking. It's like, who cares? It's weird you're so upset about this. It's like, I'm a little, upset's a strong word. I'm a little concerned about changing the eligibility criteria for every single college athlete in the country. That's a small concern. I was a little concerned about NIL. That's turned into a fucking shit show. So here we are. But we have actually, Blake and George, a ton of message board questions, because I know you guys don't just want to talk about law. You want to talk about some Vanderbilt athletics, and the Vanderbilt Commodores, just like we talked about with Chris Phillips in segment 1, are the #1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament and SEC tournament champions for the 3rd time in the last 6 years. We have some initial questions that I won't say are directly related to sports. We have one initially from Vandy Jr. 2 that says, is this the Blake Fromang? How in the world did you secure his appearance? How much is he billing you for the 1 hour of semi work? I've heard lawyers don't do anything for free, not even make phone calls. Blake, how much are we paying you?
I got to get those pro bono hours, boys. That's my answer. The Supreme Court and the Bar Association love pro bono hours, so free legal work. So that's my answer.
George, is this pro bono for you as well?
This is pro bono. I do it for love of the game and for the doors.
Hell yeah.
Grit. That's what I'm
Grit.
hearing from our lawyer team right now. Then there's a message from someone. I don't know. It's addressed to you, Trevor. It says, Trevor, I think Blake Fromang makes a salient point. You owe us all a 30-minute apology. You owe us all a Corbin glaze fest. Wet Blanket Will was on the right side of history and did not follow you down that dark path of doubting the goal. He is spared from having to glaze ... for now. Glaze time. The hot donut sign is on, and it is time for a Krispy Kreme glaze. Blake is my favorite guest, BT Dubs. - anonymous. Parentheses, not Blake.
Okay. So to whoever not Blake is, I will address this. And I partly addressed this in segment 1, but I will gladly address it again. We have 2 lawyers on the show with us right now. You can go back and you can check the tape, check the pods, check the tweets. We're on record. I said I will give a glaze fest if Vanderbilt makes a super regional. They have not made a super regional yet. Therefore, the glaze fest is not coming yet. However, I will note nobody wants to glaze Timmy C's donuts more than myself right now. Also, I will note I'm not a Krispy Kreme guy. Shout out to Tim Corbin, a New Englander. Shout out to Boston George, New Englander. I'm a New Englander at heart. I love Dunkin'. Dunkin' over Krispy Kreme, so I will gladly glaze in Dunkin' Donuts. Also, I should be praised because I have gone on record and said that I was dumb, that I was wrong, that I deserve the hate. Even before it was my time to glaze,
I want to say for the record, I could still be proven right, but out of the goodness of my heart and out of the love for the VandyBoys and out of the love I have for our fans, I've gone ahead and I've given a preemptive apology numerous times when I didn't have to do that. So I think I should be praised for my humility and my selflessness. Also, I also said in segment 1, I think, and I'm not joking here, I think that I should be praised because I truly believe this. I am the reason that Vanderbilt baseball has turned the corner. I think Vanderbilt baseball saw my takes, saw me complain about the plate approach, saw me complain about the lack of home runs, the lack of extra base hits. And whenever they changed, they started to do those things. And what happened when they started to do those things? They started winning. So you know what? Instead of shitting on me saying, you don't know much about baseball, you know what? You guys ought to be thankful that I am willing to fall on my sword and be the hero that you guys need. You should be thankful for me. If it wasn't for me, Vanderbilt would not be the #1 overall seed in all of college baseball. You should be thanking Christ for me.
You should be thanking Christ. I am who I am. You need me. You need me to save you. All right, that was loud in people's ears.
So you just glazed yourself for glazing Corbin a little bit?
Yeah. I'm telling you guys.
You Krispy Kremed yourself.
I promise you, to everyone out there, we stated this in segment 1, I will hold Trevor Hulan accountable.
Yeah.
He will be properly
There will
punished.
be a glaze fest.
I also will add a caveat. You did throw it in like last second. Your real thing was a super regional. You did add the caveat of if they beat Tennessee in a series.
Yes, you did. And I was going to bring that up.
Shit,
So I had to beat the lawyer.
Yeah, I did.
So we will say that was a secondary promise.
Okay, so
but I promise
I'll take a step back here, guys.
I will hold Trevor Hulan responsible.
Yep.
I promise you, he will be punished accordingly if they make a super.
Promise.
Well, if you don't, I will. If you
guys have our word. You have our word.
I did have criticisms as well. All of mine were based around Corbin's got to change his approach. He seems to have adapted, but they still need to make a super for me to be like, all right, we're good to go. Because I did have a dumb secondary prediction that I personally don't believe in. I do not believe in this. But my secondary prediction before the SEC tournament was the Commodores were going to win the SEC tournament, securing the #1 overall seed, and then piss down their leg in the region and get knocked out. I pray to God that doesn't happen.
I've never such thought
Trevor,
a thing.
This is being a Vanderbilt fan my entire life. It's just happened in football.
Mm-hmm.
You beat Virginia Tech. You beat Alcorn State. And then you lose to Georgia State when I'm in attendance in Atlanta. So it's the heart of a Vanderbilt fan.
Yeah.
There are a few comments that are related to your promised Glaze Fest. I don't know if those need to be read. Someone says, we've all been waiting for Trevor to debase himself as he promised long ago. Is his word worth nothing?
Guys, I promise, like I said, a super.
This goes on. While one could probably say Trevor debases himself every time he opens his mouth, I disagree. It's more likely every other time he opens his mouth.
Okay.
I've decided to boycott TDR until our demands are met. This will likely cost you tons of money. I think it's best you acquiesce to our legitimate demands. If necessary, I will send Trevor a crow to eat via USPS, which should arrive within 3 weeks. Question. Can you purchase crows to eat? Because I will prepare Trevor a crow to actually eat live on the podcast.
Let's Google
if
that.
That is something you can actually buy. That's a good idea. Let's put a pin in that one.
Are they
Isn't
edible?
Pocket crow a murder?
You can eat anything if you cook it to 165 internal
Bunch of
temp.
crow is called a murder of crows, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, murder's
I thought it was
coming your way,
ravens.
Trev.
No, it's a murder of crows. It's Hitchcock, The Birds.
The birds, yeah. Good old Alfred.
Classic. Terrible movie about his life, but great filmmaker.
Birds was awesome.
I'm trying to read through these questions because I actually don't read these before. I'm trying to get through the ones that aren't just baseball. All right, next up is Alex Kurbagov really a Russian spy? Or are you saying that to drive up TDR ratings among many Russians who have infiltrated our country lately and taken over Twitter? Loggers, I'll let you take that one. No.
Yes, my vote's yes.
Okay.
Putting us in a tough spot.
George,
All
what
right.
do you say? What do you say about Alex Kurbagov's citizenship?
I do not think that he is a Russian mole. Alex is a good, upstanding guy, recent college graduate. I believe his people fled the poor Russians from some things that he has told me and all of us off the pod. So I would find it hard to believe that he was working for the people that drove his family out of Eastern Europe. That would seem a little counterintuitive to me.
No,
Listen, I'm Fro McCarthy. This is the Red Scare. He's a Russian. He's a commie.
no foreign agents of any kind have ever graduated from U.S. universities ever. So I'm glad you hit on that point.
Do you think any like foreign adversary intelligence people have ever graduated from Vanderbilt?
Yeah.
Really?
With less than a 5% admission rate from the good old state of Tennessee and prioritizing foreign students, I would guarantee Tennessee Tech has had at least one with their strong chemical engineering program in agreement with Saudi Arabia.
Do they have an agreement with Saudi?
They used to. It's canceled now.
Fascinating. I did not know that.
We had
Cannot enrich the uranium.
I think it was Saudi Arabia. Please don't quote me on that. But it was a Middle Eastern country that like almost 10% of Tennessee Tech students were from that country.
Fascinating.
Yeah. But that's
I had no
now.
idea.
Random. What else do we have here? All right, another one. This one I think is criticizing me. Well, viewing the last episode, I became quite pissed at Will. He was making fun of a question I had asked. I spent about 3 hours crafting that question to be perfect. 3 hours I will never get back. Time which is precious to an old person like me. I thought it was better than something Thomas Jefferson could come up with, and he was quite good with words. Will made it sound like I was some kind of an idiot. While obviously true, it still hurt me deep in my soul. Even worse than the time a student told me, Mr. H, you're a smartass. Although true, I still reprimanded him severely for calling me Mr. H, and then went back to
not even a
smartass,
smartass,
as only Jamie Escalante could. Finally, my question is: Will apologize, or will double down with his put down? Will ever correct the record, or will let it stand, thereby causing it to come back to bite me years from now when the FBI is doing a background check on me for the important government position like FCC commissioner? I have no idea what he's talking about.
Last week, he asked a question, and you were like, I know exactly what he's talking about. You're like, I don't understand this question. It's pissing me off.
What was it?
I don't remember the question.
You got to understand, my brain does not work properly.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, though. Do you apologize to our dear listener?
Of course I do. If they are paying a premium membership, monthly or annual subscription, there is one thing about me. I've said it. I can be bought. There is a number. My views can be bought. So, as long as you're a subscriber, I deeply apologize from the bottom of my heart and soul. I will not condescend anymore. That's a lie. But
we need to not talk about Alex Kurbagov being a Russian spy, since Will has gone on the record and said he can be bought. If all of a sudden, I forget what the name is, but like the Russian state media that's like RT and it's like Russian propaganda, one day we're going to see Will on there, and just know that he has been bought by the Putins.
I talk a big game too, but I think.
Would you do that if the Russians came more like $2 million a year? Would you go on Russian propaganda TV and be like, I hate America?
Before I worked at my company I'm working for now, I was working for UBS, processing very high net worth trades and running risk analysis. So I was supporting definitely bad actors to begin with. We'll see. You'll know. You'll know if I get
so funny. It'd be like, welcome back. Ukraine started the war.
I just the main problem.
Now the segment one, the war of Eastern aggression.
Yeah, Ukraine was the aggressor.
We should have invaded Iraq.
I don't know if you guys have watched the latest Osama bin Laden documentary on Netflix.
No, not yet.
I have. It's great. I want to say it's a great piece. if you go in absolutely knowing, I've never seen a more obvious piece of propaganda in my entire life. It's an incredible documentary.
American propaganda?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Shocker.
I mean, just quotes from Bush being like, I want Osama with his head in a box brought to the Oval Office, just getting me fired up. We're going to invade somewhere soon. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
But,
Your daddy wanted oil.
I do say I can be bought. I do talk a big game. I actually do think from the bottom of my heart, I can't be.
I'll ask this before we go to the next question. If you were offered $500,000 salary a year to start a pro Tennessee Vol podcast, would you do it?
No.
Oh, so there's lines.
I truly believe like I would probably support Russian propaganda at a lower cost.
I would as well. Yeah.
There's politics.
Would.
If you're spending your entire day concerned about politics and you're not part of the elite billionaire, 100 millionaire class, or not directly working in politics, you're an idiot. So the Russian propaganda and actual United States of America doesn't really matter to me. Now, the Tennessee Vols, fuck them. I hate them. And that leads to the next question.
Fuck Tennessee.
Here, as well as George Barclay's nameplate, which is from one of our very loyal question askers. GLH4VU has 3 questions. His number 1 question, George, I'll let you take this one, is fuck the Vols again. Do you concur with that statement, George?
Oh, wholeheartedly. Double down.
Certainly say approved by the court.
Smashes the gavel.
Question number 2, we're going to start getting into some baseball talk because we've talked a lot of baseball.
Mm-hmm.
We've given our thoughts. You guys have not gotten the chance. And we haven't even given credit. This is Boston George's first actual appearance on the podcast. He is a regular on Talking with TDR, a regular with incredible written content on thedorreport.com. Subscribe today. But this is his first appearance. So
new father.
Yeah.
Congrats on the sex,
Yes.
George.
Congrats on the sex. Getting to this question, pitching rotation for the weekend is staying the same as the whole year. I'd assume ... Thompson, Bowker, Fennell, Nye if needed. That was what we talked about in segment 1. I think Fennell's going to be coming out of the bullpen.
I do as well.
Season play. No actual logic to back that up besides we saw Nye actually have a good performance in the SEC championship. Connor Fennell looked good out of the bullpen throughout the SEC tournament and late in the season. What do you guys think? Is it going to be Nye? Is it going to be Fennell coming out as that third starter?
That's a good question. I think right now, I mean, my gut would say keep Fennell as your third starter, and then maybe put Nye out of the bullpen. But at the same time, if Tim Corbin and Scott Brown think that it's better to have Nye as your third starter, then roll with that. I was pretty impressed with what Nye did in the SEC championship game. I thought the last couple innings he got squeezed. I thought that was a bullshit strike zone the last couple of innings. But I like his stuff. I also really like what I see from Fennell. I think he's got a little bit of that dog in him. I like the fact that he's got so much movement on his pitches and late movement. And I just like his tenacity.
Mm-hmm. Blake, as our resident baseball expert, what do you think about? I'll ask you this, Blake. What do you think about Connor Fennell's spin rate he's got right now going on as a fastball? He's pumping those RPMs up.
Sure. Fennell needs to start. He sets the tone early. He pisses people off. I love it. Like that stare down when he got set, just stayed there. Like I tweeted, that's the type of psycho we need to make a run. He's your starting guy. He's been great all year. Now's not the time to dick around with who's pitching and use a freshman. No, use Connor Fennell. Because at least if we go down, we're going down looking like some fucking dogs. Because he's showing up and throwing something. So I'll ride a guy with Fennell.
I missed George's response because I had to pee urgently, and I assumed George would have some thoughts and Blake would have some thoughts here. This is why we bring Blake and George on. Was George in favor of Nye?
He was in favor of Fennel.
Okay. This is why we bring
Two Fennelmen.
alternative perspectives, because me, Trevor, and Chris were almost 100% sure that Nye is going to be a starter. But I can fully see the idea of like Fennel has proven it.
Yeah.
Why you are at the prove it or lose it stage of the season. This is all that matters now. So it's like Nye, he had a good performance in the SEC championship. He also shit the bed his previous start.
Mm-hmm.
So ride with the guy. I think it will be Nye as the third starter, in my personal opinion. Not necessarily that I agree with it, but I can fully see why you would be a little upset by that, especially if Nye comes out and does not perform well. That would be an understandable criticism from fans.
I've also got an idea. Think a little bit outside the box. Somebody that is terrible with runners on base, but absolutely nails whenever there's nobody on. Maybe flip the script. Let Miller Green start. That way, whenever he goes out to pitch, there's nobody on base. He might pitch a perfect game. He might pitch a perfect game.
We know Blake is a fan of Miller Verde.
Miller Verde.
But we have
Miller Green lights.
We have a few more questions to get to here. This next one hits on a point we didn't get to with Chris, so I think this will be a good one. Part 3 of GLH4VU's premium member questions. Subscribe today at thedoreport.com. Did we get hosed with our regional opponents? Collective RPI for our region is much tougher than others. Does the NCAA need to get away from geographic teams for region purposes and truly seed 1 through 64?
Yes.
We have not discussed this. Trevor says yes.
Yeah, Vanderbilt got screwed in their regional.
There is a real case to be made. The NCAA is evolving, college athletics is evolving, and I really want to hear Blake and George's thoughts on it. The NCAA, maybe it's travel costs. I don't know what it is. But the idea that you have geographic regions in college baseball, take a step back. That is insane. If you told college football fans that the 12-team playoff was going to be seeded and matchups were going to be created based on geographic regions, there would be a riot. We have just accepted that this is okay in college baseball. Vanderbilt, and according to D1 baseball and wherever you look, was going to be matched up against the Louisville Cardinals, no matter what seed they were 1 through 8. So basically, what you have told, and we all know the curse of the number 1 overall seed, what you've told teams is lock up a number 1 through number 8 seed. Nothing else matters.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if you're number 1 overall. It doesn't matter if you're 8. You're getting the exact same matchup. So it even more devalues what Trevor has already said doesn't matter to him whatsoever, the SEC tournament. But you guys have probably looked at the region. Do you think Vanderbilt got screwed? What is your initial reaction to it?
I think a little bit, especially because we can't seem to play anyone who is not Louisville in the first round of the NCAA tournament. I mean, that has gone back to when I was a student at Vanderbilt. And
it's been well over a decade, yes.
Yeah, it's a bit ridiculous, and I don't really care much for Louisville anyway. I still have a bad taste from 2013 when I graduated, that Louisville team that knocked Vandy out at home in Nashville. What sort of turned the knife a little bit for me was the fact that I knew some of those guys on that Louisville team because the previous summer they had played on the Cape League team, the Chatham Anglers that I had covered. And there was this one particular utility player who was a bit of a shithead, and he had lost playing time because he tried to do a backflip on a trampoline and he concussed himself. And then he kind of took it out on everybody else. And he happened to be playing on the infield at second base when Louisville got the final out. And that just made me so angry. But to your point, I think college baseball of the 3 major sports is weirdly the last to evolve in certain ways with respect to seeding. But weirdly enough, they have this bullshit bat rule. And so you have these cheap home runs. juxtaposed to weird, bad seeding based on geography. So I do think, Vandy got screwed a little bit, but at the same time, iron sharpens iron. They've had a tough schedule all year. Let's do it.
Yeah, Blake, maybe you have thoughts. I don't know. The part where he asked about RPI, it's Louisville is one thing. That's like the prime example I use. I don't even know if Louisville is like the perfect example to use like Vanderbilt got screwed. But when you look at the RPIs of number 3 and number 4, that's where I lose touch with what the hell is going on. Is Vanderbilt doesn't have a team as the number 1 overall seed. Vanderbilt doesn't have a team in their region outside of the RPI top 100. I don't understand that. There are teams in the 200s as the 4 seed. ETSU is top 40. They're the number 1 team in the country in slugging percentage. How is that?
Top 10 in home runs.
How is that the 3 seed in the number 1 overall seed in the country's region? How is that not the 3 seed in the Knoxville region? I don't understand what's going on.
Well, and you want to go to number 4, you want to go to Wright State. I think
number 98.
I think Vanderbilt will beat Wright State, but you want to talk about ETSU slugging and home runs. Wright State has over 60 home runs on the season. They slug the hell out of the ball as well.
Wright State is top 40 in every single statistical batting category you can find. ETSU is basically top 20 in every statistical batting category you can find. It's just regional based. I get that, but man, you have the money to pay for travel. It's ridiculous at this point that you're not valuing the performance from the number 1 overall seed. And you said based on their resume, they're the best team in the country. They should have the most favorable matchups in the country, and they don't.
And then you look at LSU, and it's like, it's like Chris said, like, how did you get this matchup? How did you get this draw? It almost seems like Jay Johnson legitimately like handpicked. He's like, we want to play this.
Yeah, LSU in their region, just to let everybody know, is Arkansas, Little Rock, Dallas Baptist, which is a traditionally good program.
Yep, good program.
They're 20th in the RPI, but it's Dallas Baptist. It's not a high major power conference program that's faced high-level competition all year. And then you have Rhode Island. So that is a very different region as the number 6 national seed than Vanderbilt with the number 1 national seed. We have a lot more questions to get to. And I know, George, you have a child you need to attend to. Blake, you have work in the morning. Another question here is, I'm just going to read this. I don't even know if we need to respond. During the 8-game win streak Vandy is currently on, we've only seen Alex Kranzler once and not at all in the SEC tournament. He only pitched 1 inning, only gave up 1 hit, yet his ERA is 18. Unfortunately, the 1 hit was a 2-run home run. Why do you think this is?
Sharpening up, or like in basketball, you sort of like tighten up your rotation.
He did add options that we can choose from: A, B, C, D.
Okay, what are the options?
A, Corbs has lost faith in him and has many other good options. B, he has an undisclosed injury. C, something else not related to baseball is up. D, you have inside info that you're not at liberty to say.
I would say none of those. I think just like in basketball, how you tighten up your rotation, I think once you get into postseason play, it's kind of counterintuitive because like you need as many arms as possible, but you sort of tighten up your rotation, your bullpen.
He did have a funny addition afterwards. I'll let you go. He said, I only give options as a lame attempt to focus y'all's response, as you have a slight tendency to veer off onto tangents and start laughing uncontrollably, as of course I also do. Well, an endearing quality that makes TDR must-see TV. As a retiree, I am a busy man and don't have a lot of free time to devote to frivolity. But that's beside the point. Focus, guys. Focus. Trevor, that was a very focused response.
I was gonna give an answer before he even gave me options.
See, we're focused as hell. When
what was C? What was option C?
Option C was something else not related to baseball.
And then D was gossip that we don't like. We aren't
can't
at liberty
disclose,
to say.
Which
I'm going C. Kranzler likes to party, get the word out there.
Okay. Blake spreading misinformation. We like to hear it.
All right.
Next question.
Roger Stone over here.
If you're listening, I'm kidding. I have no idea.
It's parody.
Will there be any more Lord of the Flies stories in this upcoming episode? No, unfortunately. I really want to see what the kid that eats peanut shells off the floor is up to these days. Is he still alive? We don't know.
Dude,
Maybe.
that kid's got to have the immune system of a freaking Greek god. That kid was licking concrete.
He takes the Dwight Schrute mentality of that builds up your immune system.
That dude's definitely swallowed rocks before.
Man, that boy is a tummy full of rocks.
Yeah, he eats dirt during recess.
All right, we have a question that says, despite being the number 1 national seed, it seems like Vanderbilt isn't in the discussion of teams likely to win it all. While I recognize there may be truth to the comment that there isn't a dominant team this year, it still seems like we may be getting disrespected in favor of less consistent teams. Our metrics continue to be far better than our standings in the polls. I would just say there is no dominant team this year. Vanderbilt right now is the hottest team in the country.
Them or UNC.
But yeah, there's no Tennessee this year. I don't know George Blake. Is there a LSU, Texas? Certainly they are not that, even though they're elite. Arkansas is not that. I mean, the number 1 team in the country preseason didn't make the NCAA tournament this year in Texas A&M. So yeah, I understand why there's not talk about Vanderbilt as the odds-on favorite, because really Vanderbilt's just turned it on the last month or so.
I think, too, whenever you get to tournament, and I think you even see this in March Madness, whenever you get to a tournament-style bracket, a little bit of the focus is taken off who's the best team, and a little bit more focus is put on who has the most favorable matchup going to the championship. Like, every time bracketology goes, like, you're like, let's look at these seats. Who has the most favorable path to the Elite Eight, the most favorable path to the Final Four? And I think more than anything, especially since there's not a dominant team in college baseball this year, I think you're looking more so than anything at the bracket being like, who has the most favorable path to Omaha? And I agree with Chris in segment 1. It's got to be LSU.
Yeah, this is a good one for you guys to respond to. It's about why Tennessee fans are so delusional. It asks, I lost it. Hey, guys. From McNulty Nash 1. We can guess who that is.
I wonder who that is.
Yeah.
Our eternal ray of sunshine.
Yeah. Says, hey, guys, how long before Tennessee fans start saying baseball is a minor sport and not nearly as important as football and football and basketball?
Oh, God.
Do you guys think that's coming soon?
Oh, yeah. I think it's coming, especially if some of the murmurs that we're hearing about Tony Vitello walking after the season elsewhere, potentially walking elsewhere in conference, I think they're going to go right back to what it was before. I mean, these are not baseball people, even though they pretend they are. I remember last year, Tony Basilio, who is just, he could be a White House press secretary with the amount of bullshit that he spins, each week when he goes on the Plaster Show. It is ridiculous. And one of the things that I remember hearing him say last year was, how Tennessee has just this amazing baseball culture. And I'm spitting off a little bit of hyperbole here, but it was essentially almost to the effect of, General Neyland was there when Jackie Robinson stole home plate in the World Series against Yogi Berra and was there when they invented the sport in Cooperstown. No. I mean, these people a decade ago were saying, oh, baseball doesn't matter. It's not a real sport. And what's embarrassing? The Tennessean had to come out with an article last year explaining the rules of baseball to these shitheads. Do you know how easy it is to understand the rules of baseball? Like the manager says in Bull Durham, you throw the ball, you hit the ball, you catch the ball. It's a simple game. And the fact that they had to publish an article because all these new Vols fans were getting excited about it, ridiculous. I think if Tony Vitello leaves, that whole ship sinks over there, and they're going to be back to, just caring about basketball and football. And I think it's highly likely because I don't think he likes being third fiddle over there, especially with all the NIL money that they've got.
Blake, you think they're going to spin it?
Yeah. I mean, can you guys imagine getting run ruled in the SEC tournament by your rival? The sadness.
But they're not our rival.
Yeah,
let's remember that.
Not a real rival.
No, we're theirs. They're not ours.
Exactly.
But just the sadness, boys, the shame. I mean, you probably can't even look your dog in the eyes after that. You know, it's interesting. The Everything app X, my timeline was pretty clear in terms of, little dust went across. Didn't see any tweets from any Vols fans. It was real quiet. Seems like they found their place again, which is getting that ass whooped by Tim Corbin and the Vandy boys. So listen, it's going to be a really quick weekend in Knoxville. You're going to get to go, on the river, wherever the hell you do over there, because baseball season is over. It's done. And you can talk about the history books in 98 and NASCAR, whatever the hell you're into, but it ain't going to be baseball, fellas.
You want to know what's so funny too is that SEC tournament game, that was their World Series. But if they run ruled us, we literally wouldn't have cared. We'd have been like, man, it's a meaningless game anyways. You know what I mean? But like to them, like that was their game 7.
That was their Super Bowl.
That was their game 7. We were like, nah, we don't really care.
And we'll just run rule.
Yeah, we'd rather be playing Mississippi State.
The part on an actual note, I made the point right after Tennessee won the 2024 national championship. If there is any positivity to take away from it, is Tennessee cannot do that anymore with the amount of shit they talked last season. There are receipts. And there is nothing more sweet than can happen than to watch this slowly fall apart as one lucky recruiting class dealing with the new rules of the transfer portal and the NIL. Now, Tennessee fans, Tennessee talking heads, they are going to do exactly what you guys are talking about, but we have the receipts. I personally have the receipts.
I'll say this too. There's a reason I use the Batman photo. Everything that I tweet, even though people might find it mindless and just throwing darts at the wall, everything has a purpose. So just remember that whenever you see a tweet from
Trevor's saying that. I'm not. Yeah, sure.
But whenever you see the Batman photo, I do that because you're always going to talk to me. You all like one year you might be better than me, but just know eventually you won't. And eventually you will lose. And whether it's 1 year, 2 year, 50 years down the road, I'm lurking in the shadows waiting on that moment. So just know, things are all good and dandy right now, but just know behind your back in the dark, I'm lurking, I'm watching, and I'm waiting.
Is that your dating app bio? Is that what you put on Hinge?
Dude, I just recently got back on Hinge for the first time in a couple years, and dude, the messages I've been getting from women are so sexually charged. Like,
hey,
I'm more than a set of cock and balls. Like, I have feelings here, and I think people just think that I'm just a sex toy, and I'm not.
All right. Well, we're off the algo now. Used all the
Vandy
words.
fan JR is like, God, they're going frivolous again.
You can drop F-bombs. The words you just said are going to get us off the YouTube algorithm.
That's
so when
crazy.
you see our numbers down, it is what it is. Yeah. Also, I don't need to add more to this. Hinge at 27/now 28 in Nashville. Haven't been on there a year and a half or so. Newly back on. Wild time.
Bad place.
All right, we have 3 more premium message board questions, and then we are going to close it out here. Thank you so much, Blake and George, for taking the time
thank
with
you
us.
guys.
And everybody listening out there, this is a long, beefy episode. So enjoy it, because over summer, the portions are going to be scarce. They're going to be sparse. All right.
We're going with that Subway 5 or 6 inch fresh and fit menu.
Last 3 questions. Number 1. With the super regional bid, assuming that happens, does 2024-2025 become the most successful Vanderbilt sports year of all time? Or sports season?
Let's actually let Blake, because we had that discussion in the group chat.
That's a very interesting question. I want Blake's perspective on it because he was there when maybe the most successful was.
Well, as well as George. George wrote during that time for the Hustler.
Yeah, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on that, because across all 3 sports, and then even lump women's basketball in there, some good times. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts.
Football. We beat Alabama. That's got to be considered. But I was 9-4 that year. I mean, we beat Tennessee too, right? This year's team didn't beat Tennessee. So they won a bowl game. We won a bowl game. I'd give us a slight edge just because that's what, 2 more
Let the
wins?
people know what year you're talking about, Blake.
2000 versus 2012 or 13. Both of them, we went 9-4 in both of those. Baseball won the Natty. I think, was that 13 going into 14?
That was 14.
Yep. While you were there.
Yep, 13, 14.
Like, it's the same academic years.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Baseball won the Natty. I think the women's basketball team this year is better than what we had at that point when I was there. Can't really say much on that.
Vanderbilt basketball had just won the SEC tournament the spring before you got on campus. So they won it in 2012. You came on in fall of 2012, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they got to make a World Series to be a definitive yes.
Yeah, that's the only exact time frame that I could say is it's the only one that competes with what we've seen over the last year. And I would say football was better at that point, but you do have momentum building with Pavia, but the actual success in football was better. Basketball right now is better. That was Stallings, I believe, was like one of his down years. The year after was like they had a losing record.
Because that was the 2012 to 13 year. I don't think they made the tournament. Is that correct, George?
Yeah, because that year it was Kyle Fuller
and Odom.
It was. Yeah, I'm looking 2012, 2013, they went 16 and 17, 2013, 2014, they went 15 and 16. So basketball is in a better spot. Football in that time frame is in a better spot. It's all going to really come down to what baseball's able to do.
It really does. Baseball and a Natty.
Yeah. And the fact that we are even having this discussion right now with where we were sitting about a year ago.
Insane.
In my wildest dreams, I never imagined we would be comparing now to the 2012, 2013 era of Vanderbilt athletics. So positive things. We have 2 more here. Hi, Trevor and Will. One question. Who has it better than us?
No. The doors right now.
All right. One last question, fellas, and then I'll let you get on to your Tuesday evenings, which has been a long-ass day after Memorial Day as a holiday. From your boy Cooper, says, how nervous are you guys about the struggles of the last few regionals coming home to roost again this weekend? I'd say I'm at an 8 out of 10 confidence Vandy gets it done, but I can't stop seeing ghosts of Oregon, Xavier, and High Point. This will be a good way to end it. I'm assuming we all, if we were pressed, have Vanderbilt advancing to a super regional. Please correct me now if either of you guys have a different prediction. Okay. We got silence from Blake and George. So we are all predicting in our heart of hearts Vanderbilt will make it. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, we can start with George. What's your actual confidence level they're going to get it done here? Your boy Cooper had an 8 out of 10.
I would say 9.5. The biggest thing is I really like this team's approach at the plate right now, particularly with something that I was actually talking to Blake about right before we started recording, is this opposite field power approach of staying inside the baseball. And I love it because it's a perfect combination of some old school baseball. I mean, it's something that Derek Jeter made a career out of, especially at Yankee Stadium with that short porch. Jacob Humphrey did a beautiful example of that in the SEC tournament final. I really like that, coupled with just the dogs that this team has on the mound. I will say this. I know that some people have been comparing this staff to staffs of the past. And sure, some of the elite stuff might not be there when you talk about the David Prices of the world, the Jack Leiters, the Kumar Rockers, Carson Fulmers, the Walker Buellers. And I have so much respect for all of those guys. What I really like about this team and this pitching staff is they get elite results. And I will take elite results over elite stuff any day of the week. I mean, look at Grayson Carter last year. He was somebody who had elite stuff, quote unquote, but especially if you had, traffic on the base pass with him, it could turn into a 4-alarm fire real quick. I mean, hopefully for him, he works it out in the pros, but, particularly, the starters that we have, I think Fennell's a dog, Bowker, showed some real grit in that semifinal game. And, Thompson has been electric for a while. Really reminds me of Madison Bumgarner, the way that he attacks with his fastball. I think the biggest thing is just sticking to what they've done. And if one of these teams that they're playing gets deep into their bullpen, just being patient. I still have a little bit of PTSD from that Oregon at bat where I think the guy just was throwing 2 seams and couldn't find the plate with a map. And we had the bases loaded and just started swinging at junk. Just keep doing what you're doing, and I think we'll be in a super.
Blake, what's your confidence level at? George is at a 9.5, which is pretty damn high, if I have to say so myself. But understandable with all the reasons he just laid out.
Confidence level is a 66 out of 10. Couldn't be more confident. Did we get screwed on the draw? Sure. Do I give a damn? No. Any team that faces Vanderbilt is about to get clapped. Have you guys seen the first Spider-Man, the OG with Tobey Maguire?
Of course, I saw it in theaters.
It's our Spider-Man.
Bonesaw is ready. It's coming. Tim Corbin, Bonesaw, 66 out of 10. World Series champs, best athletic year in Vanderbilt history. Book it. The Fromang special, the Fromang promise. Under oath. Write it down. Take it to the bank and cash it, baby.
Speaking of Spider-Man, Blake, you know what we should do? We should recreate the scene to where Spider-Man and Mary Kate were like making out in the rain upside down, and I'll be the one upside down, and you can be standing up, dude.
You're just talking yourself out of meeting my eventual kids. Like,
all right.
I'll go confidence meter, dude. There's just something about it whenever Blake and George are on a pod. George's first time, so we have to really baptize him into the fire that is TDR. But there's something about having Blake on a pod that just gets me loosey-goosey. I'm not gonna lie, dude.
It gets the people going.
Gets the people going. My juices are flowing right
provocative.
now. I'm going to raise Blake by 3 points. I'm going to go 69 out of 10. I think Vanderbilt wins the regional. I think they go to a super. And guys, don't you worry. The Suck Fest is coming.
I don't know how I'm here now. I'm not wet blanket Will right now. They're going to win this region. I'm very confident. I'm at an 8.9 because
still good.
I can't go above that. This team this season, and this could look like the dumbest stretch of words I've ever uttered in 317 episodes. This team, this entire season, has had the same storyline. The bats have popped for 4 to 5 weeks. That has been the change in narrative. The pitching and defense, elite. Possibly best in the country if you group them together. Mm-hmm. The bats are horribly inconsistent when it comes to power. That's why I can't go to a 9 or above. I'm afraid there's a 1.1 that's keeping me away from a 10 out of 10 that the bats are just going to revert back to where they were. That still means, in my opinion, they probably still win the region. That just doesn't give me confidence moving forward to the super regional. I know they got, quote unquote, screwed with their region drawing. Vanderbilt is still by far the best and most talented baseball team in that region. So I want to have some sexy hot take like, I'm an 8.9, but here are the reasons why they're not going to win it. I'm an 8.9 only because I'm a Vanderbilt fan, and really this team is the hottest team in the country. They're doing everything I want to see. But I just want to take a step back and just remember, in the same way I was unwilling to fully dive in to Corbin's washed up, let's get rid of Corbin. I wasn't fully willing to dive into that. I'm also unable to fully dive into like, yep, this team's going to Omaha. I can't do that yet because I've only seen a month of them being a team that looks like an Omaha type team. Yep, that's it. So I don't mean to be wet blanket Will, but that is the last real thing I have to say on episode 317. I've got the VandyBoys advancing out of the Nashville Regional. Trevor has the VandyBoys out of the Nashville Regional. George has the VandyBoys. Blake has the VandyBoys. So we are about to close out a very long episode 317. George, Blake, anything else you want to add here?
Hey, I will just add one thing. It always sucks to be a Tennessee Vol. I'm sure Tony Vitello can't sleep at night after being run ruled via death by 1,000 paper cuts with all those singles, no home runs, and a Vanderbunt to boot. Oh, the humanity. That was fantastic.
Final words, Blake?
Yeah, it absolutely sucks to be a Tennessee Vol. 1,000 paper cuts. We got more singles than a weekend at the Flavor of Love house. And we'll keep doing it. Singles, baby. And we like to mingle. Vanderbilt now, Vanderbilt forever, Tennessee never. Anchor down, boys.
It sucks to be a Tennessee
Vol. I said it sucks to be a Tennessee Vol.
I said it sucks to be a Tennessee Vol. We got some latency issues here, a little bit off sync. But for myself, Will Byrum, my co-host Trevor Hulan, and our very special guests, George Barclay and Blake Fromang, as well as thank you to Chris Phillips for joining us in segment 1. This has been episode 317 of The Door Report, powered by 615 Collectibles.